This rookie stepped into the hunter qualification trials and absolutely shattered expectations. The aftermath left the world's elite S-rankers shook. Why? Because he dismantled the industry's hottest rising star with zero weapons, just raw, brutal hand-to-hand combat. Jaws dropped across the judges' panel. Even the apex predator of an S-rank guild felt a primal itch to jump in the ring and personally test this rookie's limits. But here is the kicker. They had no clue. Hukun had grinded for 80 long years, waging war in another dimension. As the undefeated spear god, he had literally slaughtered that realm's demon king with his bare hands. But after the victory lap, total burnout hit. So Hukun begged the goddess for a favor. He wanted to keep his XP and memories but return to Earth. The goddess gave him the green light. Catch was, his original body was long gone, so she shoved his soul into a new vessel. In a heartbeat, a blinding pillar of light slammed into Hukun. Turns out this new vessel was a body literally seconds away from flatlining. Still, the goddess bet on him starting fresh. When Hukun finally snapped, his eyes open, he was finally back on terra firma. That hellscape dimension had dragged him through the mud. But now back on Earth, he realized he was inhabiting a scrawny teenage boy. He cranked the kitchen faucet, mesmerized by the crystal-clear, poison-free water. One click and fire sparked to life. That is real magic. Those arrogant mages back in the other world could go kick rocks. Priorities though, this world still had fried chicken cutlets. The crispy perfection was so beautiful, it brought actual tears to his eyes. This was the taste of salvation. For 80 years of non-stop bloodshed, he had not tasted a single decent meal. Finally, the NPC life he dreamed of. But Hukun was too distracted to notice the ominous crimson glow pulsating outside his window. He hopped in the shower for a long, steamy scrub. Although he felt totally glitched out in this modern setting, he knew paradise was close. Then, out of nowhere, a nightmarish face pressed against the glass. It scared the soul out of him. How the hell did a creature like that exist on Earth? Seconds later, an emergency siren blared behind him. Code Red, a corrosion rift had ripped open right in his apartment complex. The speakers screamed for residents to hit the underground bunkers immediately. Hukun was clueless what even is a corrosion rift. He was flying blind. But what he saw next sent a chill down his spine. A swarm of humanoid monstrosities were plastered all over his window like bugs. Their razor-sharp talons were seconds away from shattering the glass. Right as the barrier gave way, Hukun spun on his heel and booked it. The situation was crystal clear. This was not the Earth from his memories, and he needed a tutorial update fast. These freaks looked way too similar to the nightmares he fought in the other dimension. Hukun hugged the wall near the window frame. Dodging their vision cone, he waited for them to pass, then vaulted out the window without blinking. Safest bet. Follow the loudspeaker's advice and sprint for the bunker. That is when he spotted a kid standing in the chaos. He moved to scoop the boy up, but then he paused. This kid was actually gearing up to charge back at the monsters. He looked like a baby, but his eyes were locked in. The kid started yapping about slaying beasts and asked Hukun to party up. Hukun was totally thrown off. Our Gen Z kids just built different. Through this pint-sized warrior, Hukun got the lore dump. Earth has been in survival mode for 13 years. Corrosion rifts are basically spawn points for monsters, and they appear completely RNG, no warning, no pattern. This info tilted Hukun hard. He ground through 80 years of hell, just to return to another hell. He casually quizzed the kid, asking who held the title for Earth's strongest hunter. The kid didn't stutter. Lee Sung-yoon. She is the ace of the Ganabi Guild, top 10 worldwide. She swings a great sword the size of a truck, and was currently soloing a rift in Suwon. But even with super hunters existing, the concept of civilians fighting mobs still felt like a fever dream to Hukun. Suddenly he slapped a hand over the kid's mouth. Quiet. Hostiles incoming. He scanned ahead, 5 ugly mugs staring them down. But Hukun's veteran instincts pinged a 6th one in stealth. Luckily, this scrawny vessel wasn't completely useless. It packed superhuman specs enough to clear the trash mobs. The problem: protecting the NPC kid while in combat. But ditching him wasn't on the table. As Hukun calculated his next move, a nostalgic buzz hit his nerves. The air rippled with faint blue energy, mana. In that split second, he knew for a fact the physics here were identical to the battlefield he used to rule. And then, whoosh, one of the beasts instantly erupts into a pillar of fire. Hukun's doing. Sure, the mana he stockpiled for 20 years is toast, but as long as the air breathes magic, he's back in business. He taps into the paradox flame, a power seared into his very soul. Okay, the heat is a little underwhelming compared to his prime, but for these small fry creeps, it's overkill. The kid's jaw hits the floor. Whoa, didn't know you had moves like that. Hype taking over the brat actually winds up to charge in and steal the kill. Hukun just stares dumbfounded. The monsters hadn't even aggroed yet. Why poke the bear? But thanks to the kid's Leroy Jenkins moment, he instantly becomes target number 1. Pure terror washes over the boy's face as reality sets in. Hukun snags the kid's arm just in time. Gimme the stick, he signals, eyes locked on the threat. He needs a weapon stat. 3 monsters scream toward them, closing the gap fast. The second that wood hits Hukun's palm, the vibe shifts. His eyes go cold. A sharp slice tears the air. As he swings, instantaneously 3 monsters are cleaved clean in half at the waist. In that split second, the spear god is back in the building. The kid, he's forgotten how to breathe. To the boy, Hukun isn't some rando anymore. He's gotta be a pro hunter smurfing in the newbie zone. But internally, Hukun is fuming. He fought hard for a chill, peaceful life, and it's already gone sideways. Wearing a done with this face, Hukun drags the kid to the underground bunker. The mom spots her son and floods Hukun with thank yous, realizing he's the savior. Then Hukun clocks her fit designer threads, high-end fabric. He freezes. So the kid comes from money. That explains the arrogance. Suddenly, the whole building quakes violently. Crash. A massive monster bulldozes right through the entrance, forcing its way inside. Pandemonium breaks out. Everyone scatters like roaches, but Hukun, he's planted like a tree. The kid screams back, "Run, even you can't solo that thing." Hukun doesn't flinch. He thought he returned to the normal world, but nope, this place is just as messed up as the other dimension. He turns to the rich kid. "If you're loaded, why play hero? Go hide in a mansion and live easy." The kid's expression darkens. "My dad was killed back then. His family hid in a shelter too, but the monsters slaughtered his father anyway." That's when the kid learned the hard way. Safety is a lie. That's why he swore to become a hunter, the absolute strongest. To wipe every corrosion rift off the map. Sounds crazy, right? Before he can ramble on, Hukun cuts him off. With a calm, knowing smile, he drops a truth bomb. "You'll make a solid hunter, kid. But sadly, saving the world isn't in your cards." The mom frantically yanks the boy away, screaming at him to move. Boom. A thunderous explosion rocks the room. The kid whips around. That unstoppable monster dead. Smashed by Hukun with one hand. Why did Hukun say the kid couldn't save the world? Simple. That position is filled, and Hukun's got the resume for it. Monster handled Hukun heads home to catch up on current events. Then the real horror strikes his bank account. 3,001. That's barely lunch money. The body's original owner was a logistics corporate slave until the company went belly up thanks to the rifts. Just as Hukun starts stressing about survival, a notification pops up on his phone. Hunter recruitment. Bingo. Fast forward to the next day. The Hunter Association is buzzing. It's draft day, baby. Scouts are prowling the floor, hungry to sign the next big rookie to their guilds. One scout scoffs, thinking this year's crop is nothing but NPC energy, just a bunch of extras. But then the atmosphere shifts. One of the top 10 hunters worldwide walks in. Lee So-yoon. The crowd goes wild. This is a celebrity sighting usually reserved for HD screens, and she's here in the flesh. Whispers fly, she must be here for Han Song-ah, the electric-type prodigy from the academy. Reality check, So-yoon doesn't care. She hasn't even looked at Seong-ah twice. To her, the rookie is just a walking battery pack. Her colleague suggests Seong-ah might have uses, but the guy in the shades shuts it down. Academy stars usually choke when the real blood starts spilling. So-yoon smirks. Now that is a language she speaks. She flicked a hard candy at her colleague, like a treat for a good dog. Praise, sure, but unspoken. Simulation drills, and the blood and guts of real combat, two different worlds. For these academy kids, raised on safety nets and controlled spars, reality was about to hit like a freight train. Adapting to the chaos takes time they don't have, and Han Seong-ah wasn't immune to that rule. The arena below was buzzing for the next bout. Lee Se-yoon leaned forward, eyes sharp, hungry to find a diamond in the rough. "Come on, rookies, give me a show worth watching." The announcer, however, choked on his words. The second he pulled up the file. A civilian. The disbelief was audible. This guy hadn't even stepped foot inside the Hunter Academy. Down in the pit, Hukun zipped his combat suit tight. His grip tightened around the standard issue weapon provided by the association. The announcer kept roasting him over the PA system, questioning the sanity of a nobody walking onto the stage. But stepping into the light now, it's contestant Hukun. Honestly, the name still felt foreign on his tongue. The rules were straightforward enough. Use the nerfed association weapons. No killing blows. But Hukun wasn't here for sport. He needed this hunter exam as his golden ticket to higher clearance levels. Opposite him stood a blonde pretty boy, smirking like he owned the place, clearly dismissing Hukun as trash. The referee's hand chopped down. "Fight on." Instantly, the blonde kid launched himself forward, salivating at the chance to crush a scrub who couldn't even manifest mana. Hukun didn't even flinch. His expression was dead calm. To him, this kid was nothing but a walking bullseye. Thud. Hukun drove his spear straight into the concrete floor. Then he vanished. The blonde kid blinked, his brain short-circuiting. Where did he go? A speed type. The thought barely formed before he felt a cold presence right behind his neck. "Your form is garbage," Hukun whispered. "I don't need a weapon to dismantle you." Before the kid could turn, a fist buried itself in his gut, hitting the sweet spot that makes you want to puke up last night's dinner. The kid buckled knees, giving out, but Hukun grabbed him, yanking him back upright. Crack. A brutal uppercut shattered the guy's jaw. The blonde youth, radiating arrogance just seconds ago, was now out cold on his feet. Hukun actually frowned. He knew the kid was weak, but this fragile, like glass. Good thing he went bare knuckle. If he'd used the spear, the kid would be a shish kebab right now. Hukun exhaled, relaxing his stance. Just a rookie barely worth the sweat. Definitely not the standard he expected. Up in the stands, Lee Se-yoon was frozen. What is he? She frantically scrolled through Hukun's data. A logistics employee, a warehouse guy. Her colleague stammered something about low mana reserves. Power like that needs decades to build up. Maybe he just got lucky. The excuse earned him a cold. Shut it from Lee Se-yoon, and another piece of candy flicked at his forehead. Luck, no. Her gut told her this guy was actively suppressing his mana to stay off the radar. Back in the ring, Hukan rolled his neck, a bit stiff. If he wanted to make a statement, he needed to end this with zero ambiguity. In a blur, he was already standing next to the teetering blonde. He raised a fist, voice terrifyingly calm. Relax, this won't kill you. The blonde kid's eyes widened in pure terror, blubbering pleas for mercy. Wham! One tap, lights out. The kid hit the floor. The arena exploded into whispers among the scouts. While everyone else argued over stats, Lee Se-yoon made the call. She was going to test this wild card herself. Her partner blinked. Where are you going? Straight to the top, she said, heading for the association president's box. I need a favor. Meanwhile, Hukan was on a rampage. It didn't matter who they threw at him. The result was a carbon copy. Nobody lasted 3 moves. Hukan was starting to get annoyed. What was the academy teaching these kids? How do you mass-produce fighters this soft? Finally, the fodder cleared, and a real challenger stepped up. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Murmurs rippled through the stands. It was Han Sung-ah. The crowd leaned in, desperate to see if the elite candidate could derail this mysterious nobody's win streak. Hukan gave her a once-over. His interest peaked. Finally, she was radiating the thickest mana he'd felt all day. Han Sung-ah didn't mince words. You rode luck this far. The ride ends here. Hukan suppressed a sneer. Do they teach those cheesy one-liners in the textbook? Slowly, she drew her blade. Her eyes flared with golden light. You might be powerless, but don't expect me to hold back. That actually made Hukan pause. Powerless. If he used his actual abilities, she'd be in the ICU right now. Han Sung-ah took a deep breath, dropping into a combat crouch. Mana surged, coalescing around her grip. Golden lightning crackled down the steel, the blade humming with dangerous energy. Hukan's curiosity sparked, but in a split second, Han Sung-ah blurred into motion, an explosion of teal energy trailing in her wake. But that ultra-charged slash she'd spent forever prepping, it sliced through nothing but empty air. Hukan had simply vaulted skyward. Sung-ah froze her brain, short-circuiting. He dodged it. He actually evaded my lightning draw slash. Just by jumping off the air, Hukan analyzed the tech. She was charging the sheath and blade with electricity, generating a magnetic field to supercharge the draw speed. Basically, she turned her katana into a literal railgun. Hukan touched down with a heavy thud. Technique-wise, that's top tier, he admitted. But you blew the timing. You're way too thirsty for speed. Her fatal glitch, that magnetic rail, locked her attack onto a fixed path for maximum acceleration. It doesn't matter how fast it hits if your opponent knows exactly where it's going. Nobody's face-tanking that. Sung-ah's ego shattered. Total fluke, she lied to herself. She gripped her hilt again. She went feral. I don't even need that ult to crush a nobody like you. But reality had other plans. He danced around her strikes like she was moving in slow-mo. Moron Hukan scoffed. I dodged your lightspeed slash. You think this basic stuff is gonna land? That snapped her. Sung-ah saw red logic completely leaving the chat. Blinded by fury, she wound up for a nuke. Hukan spotted the danger instantly. She was compressing mana way past her red line. One more second, and she'd blow her own arms off. Zip. Hukan materialized right in her face. Nice hustle, but we're done. Then with zero chill, he smirked. Raise your left hand if this stings. Wham. His fist buried itself deep into her gut. He didn't even use full power, but she gagged, nearly puking on the spot. Hukan didn't let up, unleashing a rapid-fire combo, pummeling her mug without mercy. Crack. A heavy haymaker connected, and Sung-ah's world went dark. Thud. The Academy's golden girl hit the deck. Not a winner, just another victim. The arena went dead silent. He'd completely dismantled an elite student. Since Hukan looked like a total NPC, the crowd started coping, thinking Sung-ah was just a glass cannon who skipped leg day. Suddenly, Hukan sensed a twitch behind him. He braced for round 2, but when he spun around, she was trembling slowly, lifting her left hand. She was totally concussed, barely vertical. Hukan actually laughed. He jokingly told her to tap out, and she literally did it. Classic honor student. Just then, a suit rushed the referee. The guy whispered something sketchy, and the ref's face went grim. The mic crackled. Change of plans. Winner Hukan, take 5. Rest up. Hukan frowned. Rest, the fight's over. Why do I need to recharge? The ref dropped the bomb. Up next, Hukan enters a special match against an active-duty pro hunter, authorized directly by the association president. It's a go. A name flashed on the jumbo screen. The crowd lost their absolute minds. Hukan squinted. A vet. Is this some kind of stress test? Not his first rodeo, even across dimensions. Screech. Steel dragged ominously across the concrete. You, Hukan, the woman asked. I'm Lee Se-yoon. Let's see what else you're keeping up your sleeve. Her stare was heavy enough to crush bones. You're too big for this kiddie pool. Want to go around with me? You can bail if you're scared. I know it's abrupt. Hukan smirked bitterly as he clocked her identity. It was her that top 10 hunter, the kid hyped up earlier. And that pressure, it wasn't for show. She was a legit apex predator, a survivor of hellish war zones. With his current stats, even with a spear, a head-on clash was suicide. But for some reason Hukan couldn't stop grinning. You want to test me? Bring it. The ref blinked. Don't you need a break? Seyun caught the fire in his eyes, pure warrior instinct. She smiled. We're cut from the same cloth, aren't we? Hukan grinned back, electricity racing through his veins. Time to find out if the so-called strongest can actually earn my respect. Boom, they vanish into a blur of violence. The crowd is absolutely shook, silence falls over the stands, even the ref is dripping sweat, stuttering completely at a loss for words. Hukan parries another heavy strike from Lee Seyun, but let's be real, he is not having a good time. He can feel the sheer weight of her power rattling his bones. This woman is a beast. She's packing enough raw strength to humble any male hunter alive. Desperate for breathing room, Hukan snaps his wrist, spinning his spear like a propeller to deflect her onslaught. He pours every ounce of grit into that collision, shoving Lee Seyun back, one heavy step at a time. But look at her face, stone cold. She's barely breaking a sweat, still toying with him, keeping her true nukes in reserve. Meanwhile, Hukan's speed is tanking hard. Going toe-to-toe with an S rank is taking its toll. Hukan looks wrecked. It's not that he can't see the gaps in her defense. His body just can't keep up with the killer instincts, forged in the fires of endless war. But Lee Seyun, she is absolutely loving this. It's been ages since she found a sparring partner this legit. Sure, the power gap is massive, but the guy is undeniably tough. She wants to keep the dance going, but she can tell his tank is hitting empty. She steps in, nodding with genuine respect. Not bad. You've got skills. I gave you 5 minutes tops. You lasted 30. But she doesn't let the compliment sit, launching herself at him. Since you're gassed, let me do you a favor. Nap time. Hukan's knuckles turn white on his spear. He's tapped out 0 mana in the tank, and the air around him is dry. He exhales slowly, icing his nerves. He didn't want to play this card, but he's out of options. He leans back, laser-focused, waiting for the impact. His eyes track every micro-movement. The second she slips up, boom, paradox flame. The black fire erupts, and for a split second Seyun looks rattled. But she doesn't bail, she slashes right through the inferno. Splitting the attack in half, Hukan realizes the hit didn't land and scrambles back, creating massive distance. A smirk creeps onto Seyun's face. That combo should have finished him. Yet somehow he's still standing. And that dark aura, she asks, intrigued. What's the deal? You tried to hit me with it right, my sword cut right through it. Hukan keeps his cool. That is the paradox flame, my ultimate wildcard. Back in the other realm, this was my bread and butter, the one power I trusted with my life. It's not normal fire. That's why my gear isn't ash. It doesn't burn physical stuff. It burns abstract concepts. Right now, I can't torch the heavy stuff, like identity or memories. Then Hukan explodes into motion. His spear screams through the air. The fuel, he's burning his own exhaustion. Seyun's eyes go wide. Your speed, you're faster than before. Were you sandbagging this whole time? Hukan doesn't waste breath. He glitches forward like a teleport, materializing right in her face. Spear slashing in a deadly arc. Seyun is reeling. You recovered that fast. How is that even physically possible? Before the sentence ends, she flickers out of existence with a sharp whoosh. A heartbeat later, she pops back in, right in front of him, matching his insane tempo. Steel crashes against steel in a deafening high-speed blur. Sparks fly as the duel drags on. And Seyun starts sensing something is off. The mana in the air is glitching out, but the arena shields are stable. So there's only one answer, Hukan's paradox flame. Just like normal fire creates heat by burning wood, this flame burns abstract concepts to release pure mana. Hukan sparks the paradox flame with mana, and the flame burns his fatigue to create more mana. It's a broken, self-sustaining loop. Fatigue becomes mana, mana fuels the fire. He's an endurance monster. The longer this goes, the weaker she gets, while he stays locked in a permanent state of half stamina, refusing to drop. Suddenly, Seyun flashes in, bringing her sword down like a guillotine. Clang. The arena floor shatters into dust, but Hukan is already gone. She slowly lifts her head, her voice dropping an octave heavy with menace. Do you seriously think you can keep this up? Yu-chan emerged from the swirling dust cloud looking like a desperate leech attached to his opponent's limb. Grinning through the pain, he refused to let go. I plan to drag this into the deep end from the jump. You really think I'm gonna quit now? I've got gas in the tank, baby. Keep up, he taunted. Come on, spill it. Does a shameless hustler like me get the passing grade? Exhaustion finally flickered in Lee Seyun's gaze. She'd been nerfing herself the whole time, deliberately suppressing her power to match Yu-chan's level. If she'd gone all out, game over in a single hit. Her voice remained deadpan. Nobody likes a guy who doesn't know his limits. Burn a tree and all you get is ash. Burnt ash can't catch fire twice. That's the paradox flame. When everything is reduced to dust, that residue is where the flame dies. And where your life ends. Lee Seyun checked the chrono on her wrist. 4 hours and 17 minutes. Yu-chan was basically glued to the pavement. She peered down at him. You lasted longer than I thought. Want round 2? Yu-chan tapped out immediately. Let me go, I'm literally gonna expire if we keep this up. With his surrender, the match had a winner. Lee Seyun. She reached into her coat, pulling out a lollipop. Her crew froze, eyes popping out of their heads. She flicked the candy at Yu-chan, a business card following close behind. Consider that your loot. My info's in there. Don't ghost me. Yu-chan inspected the card. Partner of Genoa, LLC. Headhunter Lee Seyun. She dropped her volume. We'll talk numbers later. Buzz me when you're alive again. 2.5 hours later. Yu Chan crunched down on the lollipop, mesmerized by the smartphone in his hand. Back in his era, ID meant scribbles on paper. Now, this brick handled biometrics, gear trading, DMs and calls simultaneously. It felt like the magical comms from that other dimension he'd lived in. Suddenly, a human mountain blocked his view. Your Hunter Yu Chan camera adds 10 pounds, huh? You look sharper in person. The guy was easily over 6'6". He extended a business card, Taebaek Company Limited. Lee Song-hyun. The giant didn't mince words. He wanted Yu Chan on his roster. He swore that with the right XP under his leadership, Yu Chan would be a superstar. Yu Chan studied him. The guy didn't seem to be capping. But then Lee Se-yoon's face flashed in his mind. That subtle blush. And the way she insisted he call her. Yu Chan pocketed Lee Song-hyun's card without looking at it. He was already booked mentally at least. Gonna need a minute to chew on that, he said. Instead of raging, Lee Song-hyun busted a gut laughing. Relax, did you think I was gonna strong-arm you right here? Take your time. Yu Chan thought the guy was chill until Lee Song-hyun clamped a heavy hand onto his shoulder. The pressure was real. Yu Chan didn't flinch, locking eyes with a sharp, defiant glare. Think hard about this, Song-hyun warned, adding that he pegged Yu Chan for a smart player. He turned and marched off, leaving Yu Chan in the quiet aftermath. The sheer audacity of the guy. That aggression sealed the deal, zero chance he was joining that guild. 10 minutes later, Yu Chan was on the line with Lee Se-yoon. She pinged him a location instantly. Second floor Hunter Association HQ. Yu Chan found the spot, the cabin. The staff greeted him with major hype energy. Guess Yu Chan was trending now. Welcome to the cabin, she's been expecting you. Hearing his approach, Lee Se-yoon spun around, waving him over. She looked shook that he'd pulled up so fast, asking if something went down. Yu Chan gave her the TL.DR. Some massive dude tried to recruit him. Lee Se-yoon didn't even blink. That was definitely Lee Song-hyun, from Taebaek Guild. When that guy claims a prospect, other guilds usually fold. Yu Chan let out a dry chuckle. So even your squad is scared of him. Not gonna lie, that's kind of a letdown. But Lee Se-yoon flipped the script. She didn't try to sign him. Instead, she asked, how do you feel about flying solo? I'm talking freelance work. No guild tag. Yu Chan's ears perked up. Finally, someone thinking outside the box. She was hinting that he could raid high-tier dungeons without wearing a guild's leash. She added, Yoon Hae-sung was just gonna offer you a grunt role anyway. Bam. Yu Chan slammed his hand on the table. Entry level. Seriously. So, break it down. What exactly is a partner hunter supposed to be? Lee Se-yoon leaned in to drop the knowledge. Look, guild hunters basically operate on a 3-tier hierarchy. You've got your rookies, your seniors, and the partner hunters. The first two groups, they're squad members, taking orders from a partner-level lead. Basically glorified salarymen punching a clock. But partners, that's the major leagues. They actually hold equity in the guild. Forget a steady paycheck. These guys rake in a cut of the pure net profits. They're practically co-owners running the show. The entire setup sounded less like a monster hunting squad, and more like a cutthroat law firm. Lee Se-yoon explained that, back in the day, guilds literally copy-pasted their structure from legal practices. But here's her take. Hukan didn't need to play the corporate game, grinding from rookie to senior just to get a seat at the table. Hukan caught her drift immediately. If he could stack up enough clout and pull off feats nobody could ignore, the guilds would come begging for him. That realization made Lee Se-yoon smirk with satisfaction. Talking to Hukan felt effortless, no filters needed. But one thing threw him off. Her obsession with feeding him sweets. Since he sat down, she'd already tossed him 2 pieces of candy. But there was still a massive elephant in the room. Hukan was a nobody. 0 connections, 0 resources. How was he supposed to snag elite contracts? It felt like climbing a mountain barefoot. Lee Se-yoon brushed his worries aside like they were nothing. She could handle the logistics. And get this, she'd do it pro bono. That only made Hukan's guard go up. There's no such thing as a free lunch. So he cut to the chase. Why? Why go this hard for a total stranger? Lee Se-yoon slid her hand into a file folder. Down the road when you're a legend, and guilds are fighting a war just to recruit you. I just want you to remember the woman who gave you your start. To Hukan, it sounded like she was banking a favor for a rainy day. Slowly, she slid the dossier across the table. Take a look. Whether you sign on or walk away is 100% your call. Hukan flipped the folder open and started scanning. It was a government commission from Incheon City, targeting Jiadong Island. 2 years back, a raid team tried to seal a corrosion rift there. They failed miserably, leaving the whole area corrupted. Hukan assumed the gig was to clear the rift itself, but nope, the job was strictly patrol duty. Monitor Jiadong Island, watch for new rifts, and squash them on site. The operation launched in a month. Upfront pay, 5 million won. Success bonus, another 15 million. Hukan tossed the papers back on the table. For a job that could literally kill you, the cash was peanuts. But Lee Se-yoon's eyes were sparkling. You think the pay sucks, then get stronger, get famous. Once you're a big shot, the money chases you, not the other way around. In that moment, she just needed one thing, a yes or a no. Hukan took a beat, then spoke. Put it that way, and I'm in. I've never been one to back down from a limit test. 30 minutes later, 2 cars were tearing down the highway. Meanwhile, Lee Se-yoon was on a call with a shadow contact. She gave him the rundown on Hukan. He's a civilian who swept a tournament that forced weapon use, while fighting barehanded. The guy on the line was unimpressed. Not bad. Lee Se-yoon burst out laughing. Oh, you are way off base. He went toe-to-toe with me for 4 straight hours. The voice on the phone cracked with shock. Are you serious? Wasn't that just because you were suppressing your power? Lee Se-yoon's laugh turned icy. I'm a veteran hunter. With over 10 years in the field, surviving literal hellscapes. Logically, I should have wiped the floor with him. Instead, I was locked in a stalemate for hours. A terrifying thought crossed her mind. Even if she lived a second life, she might never run into a monster like Hukan again. After a heavy silence, the man replied, Look, I don't care how much you hype him up. This mission needs hunters with actual field IQ. Skills are one thing, but can he function in a squad with veterans? Lee Se-yoon told him to chill. She'd already handpicked a seasoned pro to babysit Hukan on the ground. The man dropped one last question. What happens if that kid eventually reaches your level? Lee Se-yoon smirked. You might not like hearing this, but you'll have to live with it. Her voice dropped an octave. If Hukan hits my level, even the boss won't be able to touch him. Cut to 1 month prior. Hukan had just ordered something online. The delivery guy was struggling, sweating buckets. This thing weighs a ton. What the hell did this guy buy? After dumping the package at the door, the driver bolted. Silence returned to the hallway. Hukan cracked the door and dragged the package inside. Moments later, a sleek black case sat on his table, his new toy. With a satisfying mechanical click, Hukan popped the latches. His eyes locked onto the weapon resting inside. Hukan's gaze locked in. The craftsmanship was insane, almost too good to be true. No matter how he held it, the spear was a perfect match for his specs. Combat with this beast, piece of cake. And the loot didn't stop there. It came with a vial of glowing green liquid. A spirit potion. This is the lifeline hunters cling to when things go south. Packed with super concentrated energy, it's the ultimate clutch item when your mana hits 0. Here's the deal. Usually mana control is like a water dispenser. Hunters sip it from the air, tank it inside their gut, and spit it out when it's fighting time. A spirit potion. It just speed runs that whole cycle. But Hukan, he wasn't playing by the standard meta. He skipped the storage phase entirely, ripping mana straight from the atmosphere and firing it off instantly. The perk was obvious. Since he was pulling from the environment, he had literally infinite ammo. Plus, constantly channeling that raw power acted like a workout for his internal circuits, making them tougher with every cycle. But there was a catch. Until those mana channels fully leveled up, his output was capped. He couldn't unleash a massive burst in a split second. With no time to waste, he needed a backup battery. Hukan downed the potion in one gulp. 1 month of grinding like this, and he knew he'd hit his target stats. Cut to 1 month later, Yongjong Island, Incheon. The assembly point was already packed. Hunters everywhere gearing up for the raid. Staff scanned his ID and boom, assigned to Squad 8. He stood under the sign, marked with a big number 8. Hukan stood like a statue, while the rest of the lobby wouldn't stop yapping. This check is gonna be fat. When do we roll? Hukan ignored the noise, meditating, until he heard his name. He spun around. Hunter Han Sung-ah. And wow, her hair was chopped short. Looked like she finally realized long hair is just a handle for monsters to grab. She walked up, clearly looking to squat up. Hukan raised an eyebrow. Place is crawling with hunters. Why me? She didn't flinch. She saw his strength. She didn't just want a partner. She wanted a front row seat to learn his moves. Hukan was speechless. Great. Another backpack he'd have to carry. If you can keep up, try not to get left behind. Suddenly a staff member cut the mic. Squad, 8 eyes on me, briefing starts now. We've got rookies, so I'm breaking down the basics. Vets deal with it. Corrosion rifts are ranked level 1, 2, 3, and unranked. The lower the number, the faster you die. Also, the first rift popping up in a zone, that's the Alpha. Right now, the Alpha on Yongjong Island is camping out at a church in northern Unseori. It's unranked, but don't let that fool you. Rifts are unstable, so stay the hell away. Your job is patrolling Unnamri on the east side. Scan for new rifts. Eliminate on sight. A groan of annoyance erupted from the team. Babysitting a rookie on a clearing mission. You serious right now? The staff ignored the salt and marched them to the op zone. Once they arrived, Hukan caught whispers of fear. This place is dangerous, even from far away. They claimed the vibes were bone-chilling, like their blood was freezing. Hukan rolled his eyes. So dramatic. Clink. Sanga tapped his leg with her blade. Signal to move. The raid was live. The staff yelled out, "We're tracking your vitals from the offshore control room. If you need backup, radio it in. Good luck, hunters." Upon reaching the zone, the squad circled up to strategize. 2 regions, 1 week. They were arguing over the plan when Hukan's voice sliced through the noise. He pointed at his phone map. "We base at Huazhou Temple. We push out from there." The reaction was instant hostility. "Who's this guy? Never seen you." "You the rookie, why the temple? Since when do newbies call the shots?" Hukan ignored the tantrums and broke it down. "High ground over Unnamri. Buildings are intact. Free shelter. It's basic tactics. Did you guys leave your brains at home?" He didn't expect that logic would trigger them this hard. "We have options. You want us to climb a mountain and get surrounded? No way." Hokwon scoffed his laugh, cutting through the tension like ice. "Get real. It's not like we're facing an army of 10,000. How exactly do you plan on getting surrounded on high ground?" That clapback just fueled their rage. Listen, rookie, there is zero chance we're taking orders from a total noob, like you. Hokwon sighed internally. Different world, same story, some people just refuse to use their brains. He didn't waste another second arguing. He dropped the ultimatum cold, we split up. Let them play their game. He'd play his. He figured only Han Song-ah would have his back, but then a curveball came out of nowhere. A third wheel decided to tag along. Hokwon side-eyed the guy stepping up next to him, clocking a mana signature that was definitely a notch above Han Song-ah's. Name's Kim Min-jae if memory serves. But why was he ditching the main squad? Hokwon asked, and the answer almost made him break character. Min-jae figured since this was probably their debut run, he couldn't just let two rookies wander off and get wrecked. Basically, he was here to babysit. Well, at least someone had a conscience. Suddenly, Hokwon's eyes locked onto the path ahead. Something was off. He swerved instantly, cutting a hard turn. Before the others could even question the move, Hokwon threw up a hand, commanding a dead stop. Finger to his lips for total silence, he signaled he was scouting the perimeter. Min-jae crept forward for a peek, and the sight instantly stole the air from his lungs. A horde of monsters swarmed the tree line. We're talking 50 beasts easy. Min-jae immediately whispered for a detour. Anything to avoid a head-on collision. Hokwon just held up a hand cool as ice. Chill. What's your ult, your unique skill? Min-jae stammered, and Hokwon's gaze instantly hardened. Was he seriously doubting the fight? That hesitation rubbed Hokwon the wrong way. Hunters kill monsters, that's the gig. I won't repeat myself, Hokwon pressed. What is your skill? Turns out Min-jae's a pyro. Main DPS skill, fireball. Perfect, Hokwon smirked. Wait for my mark, then nuke him. Min-jae froze. He wasn't ready for that kind of ruthless leadership. His brain short-circuited, trying to process Hokwon's logic. But before Min-jae could spiral further, Han Song-ah jumped in. If he's taking point on the blast, what's my play? Min-jae panicked. Taking on 50 mobs with a 3-man squad. That's suicide, especially for rookies. We need to fall back. And radio the main group. Hokwon shook his head. Too slow. By the time they realize what's happening, we'll be monster chow. The logistics didn't work. Hokwon's crew pushed straight from Wazio Temple, while the others were still messing around sweeping the coast, plus blasting a radio signal right now, rookie mistake. Even if someone heard it, they wouldn't arrive in time. And if the monster pack scattered while they waited, they'd hunt down every other team in the area. Min-jae took a breath, ran the numbers, and realized Hokwon was right. Even with backup nearby, nobody's guaranteed to play hero. Especially after all that drama earlier, it was up to them, just the 3 of them, against the horde. With the odds stacked against them, a stealth ambush was the only win condition. Min-jae's fireball was the ace in the hole. Hokwon cut the chatter and dealt the cards. Min-jae dropped the nuke right in the center. I'll lock down the flanks. Nothing gets out alive. Min-jae stared stunned. It was like Hokwon had already run a simulation of the battle in his head. Who is this guy? He commanded the field like a veteran war general. They held their breath, waiting for the perfect split second. The monsters clustered up. Now, Min-jae let it rip. No hesitation. Boom. Before the beasts could blink, a catastrophic inferno swallowed the pack. The heat was insane, vaporizing the front line instantly. But Min-jae needed a cooldown for the next cast. That was Hokwon's cue. He had to be the shield. Min-jae pressed his palms to his forehead, desperately charging mana. Suddenly, Hokwon blurred forward, moving faster than the eye could follow. Eyes dripping with bloodlust, he had one job, keep the aggro and buy the mage sometime. A flash of steel, Hokwon sliced through the chaos, dropping multiple rift monsters in a single efficient breath. This is how you raid. Know your role. Hold the line until the next fireball turns the rest to ash. Right then, a beast lunged for his throat. Hokwon didn't even flinch. He whipped his spear in a brutal arc, dropping a pile of monsters in one fluid motion. No way was he letting these freaks anywhere near Kim Min-jae. But holding the line solo wasn't sustainable. He needed backup fast. Hokwon barked. Your turn. Instantly, the air screamed with the sound of a blade being drawn. With one lethal strike, Han Song-ah obliterated 3 goblins at once. She let out a breath. Sector clear. Now it was Kim Min-jae's show. Before her voice even faded, the air distorted with heat. Kim Min-jae was locked and loaded with a massive fireball. Hokwon threw up a hand signaling a hard stop. Hold it. Wait till I clear the zone. You fire. Now you roast me too. The second Hokwon bailed, Min-jae pulled the trigger. The inferno roared forward like a feral beast, tearing through the forest toward the horde. A thunderous explosion swallowed the spot where Hokwon stood a split second ago. He'd barely rolled to safety in time. Hokwon gripped his spear knuckles white, ready for the follow-up. 2 crispy survivors tried to scramble away in the chaos, but Hokwon wasn't doing mercy today. He cut them down instantly. Moments later, the smoke drifted, revealing Hokwon planting his spear into the earth. Total victory. The ambush was a clean sweep. Every mob was dead, but man, that scrap took a chunk out of their stamina. Hokwon turned to hype up the squad when chill run down his spine. He spun around to find Min-jae, pointing a handgun right between his eyes, looking dead serious. Then a smirk cracked Min-jae's face. Mind, stepping aside, you're blocking my shot. Hokwon froze hard, skipping a beat. He legit thought he was about to get fragged. Bang bang, Min-jae fired twice past him, dropping a hidden mob instantly. They were tagging the corpses with microchips. Once the sector was green-lit and the mission wrapped, the cleanup crew would roll in. These salvage dealers were pros at stripping magic loot from carcasses. Once the chips were active, the dealers would sweep the field. After the mission, harvesting anything with a price tag. The loot would get appraised, sold off, and the cash split up. Dealers took their cut, and the rest went to the families of fallen hunters. Hukan asked the big question, can we trust these guys? Min-jae shrugged, safe enough, provided you signed with a legit crew beforehand. But while they chatted, a shadow lurked in the canopy, watching Hukan like prey. Crash. It slammed down, spraying stone debris everywhere. Hukan's instincts screamed. He tackled Min-jae, dragging him out of the kill zone just as the ground exploded. If he hadn't moved, they'd both be paced. Once they scrambled to a safe distance, Hukan tossed Min-jae aside and squared up. Min-jae grit his teeth seriously. They just wiped the trash mobs. And now this. The monster let out a bone-chilling cackle, flashing rows of jagged nightmare fangs. Hukan's face went stone cold. This wasn't a grunt. It was the pack leader. With a piercing roar, the beast shook the entire forest. Was it summoning backup? No one knew. Hukan cursed under his breath. Why didn't this coward charge in with its minions earlier? Taking on the trio solo now was just a death wish. But the bat leader shrieked, laughing again. Hukan felt the mana pressure radiating off it. Okay, this thing was built different. It was leagues above the others. Hukan shouted, stay back, do not engage, I'm taking this one solo. The pressure was suffocating. If this thing caught them, it was game over. The team hesitated, usually. A boss meant a raid party. Hukan snapped, cutting through their doubt. I'm only saying this once, run. Don't make me repeat myself. Unless you want to go home. With your heads rolling on the floor, the vivid image froze them. That was one way to make a point. Hukan spun his spear, signaling them to scramble. Fighting alone meant he didn't have to hold back his full power. He grinned savagely. Come get some, you oversized bat. In a blur, Hukan collided head-on with the boss. Hansong-ah stepped forward, but Min-jae grabbed her shoulder. Don't. We'll just be in his way. And he was right. Hukan wasn't losing. The bat leader couldn't land a single hit. Not even a scratch on his gear. Han Seong-ah watched in awe, realizing something terrifying. Hukan's reflexes were god tier. If that were her, she knew she wouldn't stand a chance against that speed. Hukan pivots with liquid grace, slipping past the alpha's claw by a single inch. But he isn't just dodging. He's biting back. Everywhere his spear dances, infernal black flames erupt. The bat leader is sluggish, movements lagging. To an outsider it looks like a brawl, but reality. Hukan is treating this beast like a chew toy. Hansung-ah just stares, brain buffering. Is this guy seriously a rookie? Because he fights like a warlord who has survived 1,000 hells. Suddenly, the boss monster lunges for a desperate strike. Hukan lets out a dry chuckle. Perfect. Let's see if you're worth my full power. He glides backward, boots, skimming the dirt to create a gap. Then he does the unthinkable. He launches his spear straight up into the sky. Sung-ah is flabbergasted, disarming himself. Now, has he lost his mind? The spear climbs high while the monster roars, closing the distance for the kill. Kim Min-jae is losing it too. In the heat of the climax, Hukan just threw away his only defense. A heartbeat later, the monster is in his face. Hukan doesn't flinch. He just stares it down, stone cold. Thud. A sickening crunch echoes as the monster's head slams into the dirt. The spear he tossed seconds ago. It was a calculated orbital strike. Dropping like a meteor, it pierced right through the beast's neck. Even impaled, the creature thrashes, showing off that terrifying boss-level HP. But it's already over. Hukan isn't about to let a comeback mechanic happen. Before the squad can even blink, he rips the spear out and drives it back into the skull. Again and again. Game over. Min-jae stands there, mouth agape. 1 second Hukan looked cornered. The next, the boss is loot. What kind of power is that? Hukan turns to Min-jae, cutting the silence. Be honest. Is it normal? For a mob like this to spawn here, Min-jae is already sweating. For a creature that isn't even a core unit, this power level is wrong. If this is a corruption zone, we're talking at least level 3. Corruption units follow a 4-tier hierarchy. But the intel said the Alpha Corrosion Rift on Bridge East Island was unrated. There is only one answer. The rift has evolved. It's already hit level 3. They need to call this in now. Seung-ah wavers, but Hukan shuts it down with cold logic. Think, if it wasn't level 3, none of this insanity makes sense. Min-jae's face goes pale. The jump from unrated to level 3 isn't a step, it's a cliff. If that's true, the survival rate for hunters here just dropped to near 0. This island is a death trap. They need to escalate this immediately. Min-jae suggests a detour rescue the other hunters first. With Hukan's insane DPS, maybe they can handle a level 3 zone. Hukan gives a hard no. He isn't Superman. He can't scour the whole island saving everyone. He has limits. He lays it out. Their mission isn't search and rescue, it's search and destroy. Find the rifts and close them. In this line of work, people die. It's collateral damage. Seung-ah steps up, voice shaking. But what if it were you? Put yourself in their shoes. If you were the one bleeding out, wouldn't you feel abandoned, angry, desperate for a hero? Hukan's eyes go completely dead. Are you trying to save people with the mindset of a corpse? He isn't ignoring emotions. He is looking at the math. If you want to play hero, go ahead. Just don't drag me into your suicide pact. Hukan tells them to drop the savior complex. Some deaths in this world are written in stone. If he faces that end, he won't cry about it, he'll go out swinging, but risking the mission to save a few souls only to let the rift grow and kill everyone else. That is the real tragedy. When the clock is ticking, hesitation is the killer. If they keep carrying that emotional baggage, they won't last 5 minutes. As the sun sets, the squad finds a spot to crash an abandoned house, serving as a temporary base. The place is gutted, a ghost town with no sign that the corrupted have infected it yet. Min-jae sweeps the perimeter clear. Nothing weird, except the dim electric lights still buzzing. It helps them track the positions of other teams. But to Hukan, those lights aren't helpful. They're a tactical nightmare. Against trash mobs, it's fine. But if a boss like that bat leader shows up, they're just a giant glowing target. This was bad, like catastrophe level bad. Hukan whipped out his phone, thumbs flying as he blasted an urgent alert to every hunter on the network. This is Squad 8. Heads up, based on recent contact, the Alpha Corrosion Rift just evolved. We are officially looking at a level 3 threat. Kill the lights. You shine a beam out here, you're basically ringing the dinner bell for the deadliest targets in the zone. Stay dark. The mechanics were simple: smash the core, cut the power. Without that energy, feed every monster tethered to the rift would instantly dissolve into nothingness. The entire corrupted dimension would implode. Hukan ran the scenarios in his head honestly. This mission was looking deceptively straightforward. All the horror stories people spun were totally overblown. He would just play the waiting game, and the second the timing was perfect, he'd personally obliterate the rift. Total darkness swallowed the camp as night took over. Han Sung-ah was already out cold catching some Z's. Meanwhile, Kim Min-jae had, as the squad dozed off, Yu-chan planted a proximity sensor next to them. If any beasts got too close, that thing would scream, letting him ghost the scene without stress. He blitzed through the woods, heading straight for the Alpha Rift coordinates he'd memorized from the briefing. This was supposed to be a quick midnight run, an easy clap, but then the vibe shifted, hard. Something stirred in the brush ahead. Yu-chan froze, eyes locked on the darkness. A creepy, echoing cackle ripped through the silence. His face hardened. He knew things were going way too smooth, and just like that, the situation went sideways. He lit up his fists with searing flames, ready to throw hands, but when he spun around, it wasn't the usual trash mob he expected. This thing was a titan, a monstrosity he'd never laid eyes on before. Its massive frame towered over him like a skyscraper, making that bat leader from earlier look like a toy. Meanwhile, absolute chaos broke out at the Hunter Association HQ. Squad 5's vitals just flatlined, total blackout. Everyone was presumed Kia. The higher-ups were losing it as more death notices flooded the screens. Damn it. What the hell is happening out there? The comms officer scrambled, screaming for backup and blasting a priority SOS to every hunter in the sector. Moments later, a new ping hit the radar. Someone was speedrunning straight for the Alpha Corrosion Rift's heart. The commander barked an order to intercept that lunatic immediately. Whatever was waiting in that zone was a death sentence. But when the ID tag loaded, the room went dead silent. The hunter charging the Alpha Core was Squad 8's Yu-chan. The rookie was actually the first one to pinpoint the core's location. The commander screamed for a visual link to Yu-chan's HUD. A corrosion core leveling up mid-mission. Unheard of. In the panic, Yu-chan was the only one reacting and diving into the danger zone. They had to watch this. The feed flickered to life. On screen, Yu-chan wasn't just fighting. He was sprinting for his life with a nightmare beast hot on his heels. The thing was cracked way stronger than intel suggested, and its speed was terrifying. Yu-chan's breathless voice crackled over the association speakers. This monster was overpowered. Surviving this long was pure RNG. Mid-sprint, Yu-chan started raging. I thought we had scouts. How did nobody ping this disaster? He swore when he got back he'd force-feed the corrosion core to every incompetent suit at base. The outburst made the Hunter HQ staff exchange nervous glances. They awkwardly hit the mute button. As long as the kid was breathing, they didn't need the insults. Yu-chan did the math, trying to tank this beast with brute force, suicide. He had to kite it, chip away its health, and land a critical spear shot. But this enemy was a sponge. It wasn't slowing down at all. After draining Jiaolong Island dry to nuke the bat leader earlier, his mana tank was running on fumes. He couldn't retreat. He was trapped on the island. He needed a recharge station stat. His eyes narrowed. He spotted exactly what he needed. A gaping pitch-black void opened up ahead like a mouth to hell. Without skipping a beat, Yu-chan yeeted himself straight into the abyss. Falling, he actually spun around to trash-talk the giant monster, daring it to catch up. He had a theory to test. Suddenly, Yu-chan's signal vanished from the HQ screens. Reason: he just crossed into the Alpha Corrosion Core. The commander's face went ghost white. This was a catastrophe. Inside the core, it was weirdly pristine. No rot, no decay. Yu-chan frowned. If Tier 5 and 3 cores were messy, why was this high-level zone so spotless? Just how intense were Tier 1 and 2 supposed to be? A moment later, he hit the rift's edge. The real boss was waiting. The true heavyweight champion. Yu-chan wasn't a battle junkie, but if this place kept poking the bear, his patience was gonna snap. He gripped his weapon, knuckles white. The issue with his paradox flame was that it had zero chill. It scorched enemies and allies alike. That made the flame a weapon of mass destruction. Once it hit critical mass, he had to shut it down or risk nuking everything. Just then, a beast lunged from the shadows. Yu Chan didn't blink. He thrust his spear. Thwack. One shriek, and the thing dropped dead. Yu Chan smirked. Too easy. He immediately started pulling raw mana from the air, refueling his tank. Yu Chan let out a low, triumphant chuckle. It was a wrap. Wasting zero time, he began siphoning mana from the air, dragging that raw energy straight into his core. He crunched the energy down, locking it deep inside. Pure mana ripped through his veins, stretching his channels to the breaking point before reinforcing them like steel. Hukan let out a ragged breath, faint wisps of demonic aura, leaking out like steam. The payoff. Absolutely insane. It was way more juice than he expected. Above him, the sky started fracturing like broken glass. Hukan didn't even flinch. Looks like the party's just starting. A swarm of carbon copy beasts spilled out of the void. Too bad for them, they were dead on arrival. Hukan's body was already fully optimized. Enemies on this level, please. They were barely a warm-up. 3 of them rushed him, claws out, and with a lazy flick of his spear, he scoffed. Seriously? You brainless freaks still think numbers matter? In a heartbeat, explosive mana burst from Hukan, shredding the monsters into confetti before they could even touch the hem of his robe. He was exponentially stronger now, but compared to his prime in the other world, this was nothing. Maybe 1% of his true power. Suddenly a shadow loomed behind him, an assassin-style ambush. A cold spike of danger hit his spine. When did it get within kill range? Hukan flashed away the split second the attack landed. It was a humanoid monstrosity with a grotesque rat's head. The corrosion core pulsing inside it was built different. But instead of fear, Hukan smirked, wondering how many chain combos this thing could tank. Hukan launched his spear, spinning like a buzzsaw. He threw a single thrust. The rat head blocked it dead on. Too slow, it screeched, mocking him. Big mistake. It didn't realize Hukan was throttling his speed. Yet the impact was heavy enough to fracture its weapon instantly. Hukan locked eyes with the beast, voice ice cold. Twin moon spear. First, form pierce. Boom. A mana blast sent the creature flying. Hukan didn't let up, closing the gap and pummeling it before its brain could even reboot. This was the Twin Moon Spear's signature. Every swing left a glowing blue trail, automatically replaying the initial strike 4 additional times. If he just traced the lines, it would be a basic 4-hit combo. Boring. But Hukan's mastery leveled it up. Those blue trails became autonomous weapons, turning into twin demonic boomerangs that hunted the target. Good luck dodging that. Against this kind of lag-delayed assault, the rat head had 0 win condition. It left an opening, and Hukan capitalized immediately. The monster was struck again. Hukan could have ended it right there. Game over. He unleashed hell. A relentless barrage, every hit echoing 4 times, pushing the beast's body past its limit. Soon half its head was gone. It probably didn't even process its own death. But just as he wound up for the kill shot, a mysterious box materialized in his hand. He cracked it open slowly. What he saw inside froze him solid. Meanwhile, Hunter HQ was in full meltdown mode. Corrosion rifts were radiating out from Bridge East Island, and Team Vitals were flatlining left and right. The commander stared at the screens, totally paralyzed. This scenario was way off script. Pure despair glossed over his eyes. Was this it? Unless a miracle dropped out of the sky, they were just watching a live stream of a massacre. Suddenly an operator screamed, "Sir, you gotta look at this now." Incoming transmission from the Alpha Core Zone. The commander slapped the feed to the main monitor. It was Hukan. The report was impossible. Corrosion core signal. Gone. Eradicated. Every hostility in the area deleted. The commander's jaw hit the floor. He was looking at an actual miracle. Message sent. Hukan exhaled a long plume of steam. He gazed up. Stars were actually twinkling. And the air tasted crisp, way fresher than the toxic smog of the other world. But let's rewind the tape. 2 minutes ago, a tsunami of monsters was flooding from the rift. Han Sanya was back-to-back with her squad, body covered in lacerations. Her grip was slipping, she could barely keep hold of her blade. Then adrenaline kicked in. She pinned her right arm against her ribs, forcing her fingers to lock around the hilt. She stared down the horde. There were way more of them now than during the day, and Hukan was still MIA. Behind her, Kim Min Jae's voice cracked. "Miss Han. Honestly, are we making it out of this? I'm losing it here." He wasn't wrong to panic. Directly ahead, a wall of monsters was ready to stampede them into paste. Han Seong-ya threw a desperate glance back at Kim Min-jae. The guy was running on fumes, totally spent. Survival felt like a long shot, and she was barely holding on herself, but collapsing wasn't an option. Then, in a split second, a nightmare on legs pounced straight for her. Her instinct screamed. She ducked low, and a violet surge of lightning blasted from her palm. That's when the adrenaline wore off enough for her to feel it. Her legs were dead weight. Numb. When did that happen? To make matters worse, 3 more beasts were rushing them head-on. Min-jae was panicking, but he was frozen, absolutely tapped out. One monster was inches away from tearing out Seong-ya's throat. Min-jae couldn't watch. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for the gore. 5 agonizing seconds ticked by. But the scream, it never came. They cracked their eyes open to a mind-bending scene. The monster's gone, reduced to nothing but drifting dust in the wind. Fast forward to the next day, Hukan rolled up to the Bridge East assembly point. One look at the aftermath and his face dropped. Bodies everywhere. Did the corrosion rift go nuclear while he was gone? The crowd gaped at Hukan like he was an alien. Wait, you actually cleared a level 3 rift. Solo. They scanned his lean build, trying to do the math. He didn't look like the type of tank who could pull off a miracle like that alone. Hukan ignored the stairs and spotted the 8th squad up ahead. Min Jae was still shook. He couldn't wrap his head around the fact that Hukan had cleaned house by himself. Hukan let out a dry, cold chuckle. It wasn't a plan, it was pure instinct. His body moved before his brain even got the memo. He did it to save the squad, plain and simple. But since the dust had settled nicely, he figured it was the perfect time to pivot, ditch the villain reputation, and rebrand as the hero. Suddenly, a voice cut through the noise. Park Young-kai, a suit from the Korean operations company, stepped up. Hukan eyed him with zero interest. So you're the puppet master behind this gig? Park gestured toward a waiting car. The mayor wanted a face-to-face. Hukan sighed. He'd lost track of how many times he'd been summoned. Like an errand boy. These old geezers loved barking orders. But then a thought clicked. The contract didn't say jack about a bonus for wiping out a level 3 threat. Since he was already here, it was time to negotiate the paycheck. Hukan hopped out of the car. And immediately, another guy, Lee Bit-jae, was in his face with a handshake playing the eager coordinator. As they walked, Lee wouldn't shut up about how the mayor was fanboying over the meeting. Apparently, when the dawn report hit, the chairman cleared his entire schedule on the spot, canceling every meeting just to chat with Hukan, a rookie soloing a level 3 rift. That kind of power hadn't been seen since the legendary first-generation hunters. Hukan raised a brow. He didn't expect to hear that some ancient hunter had pulled off the same flex back in the day. Inside the office, a heavy-set man waddled out with a politician's smile. Welcome. I'm Mayor Park Ji-hyun. Sorry to drag you out on such a gloomy day. He ushered Hukan toward his private lounge, clearly desperate to butter him up. As the boss of Incheon, Bridge East Island was a massive migraine. No fix meant no funding, and the corporate sharks were refusing to bite. Hukan sipped his coffee, mind already calculating how to bleed the mayor dry for cash. But when the mayor realized Hukan was technically still a noob on paper, he looked weirdly proud. Hukan paused, genuinely confused by the reaction. What was this guy's angle? It turned out Incheon wasn't just a city. It was the heart of the nation's economy. With the airport's elite infrastructure, massive logistics networks were pumping through the veins of the city 24/7. Plus, the free economic zone had turned Songdo and Cheongna into global hotspots. Drowning in so much foreign investment, it was actually a problem. With that much capital flooding the zone, everything was set up for Hukan to have a smooth ride to the top. It sounded too good to be true. Hukan cut the sales pitch short. Let's be real. You're rolling out the red carpet because you want a return on investment, right? Like, say, saving a mayor's tanking approval ratings before re-election. The mayor cleared his throat, forcing a crooked, practiced grin. You really did your homework. Nothing stays buried in the age of smartphones, huh? Yu Chan didn't need a deep dive to know the score. The mayor's term hits its expiration date early next year, and looking at the polls, the guy was practically a walking corpse politically. Re-election was a pipe dream. A single bead of cold sweat trickled down the mayor's temple. You don't pull your punches, he chuckled nervously. But let's be real. To operate here, don't you need the Incheon city government's stamp of approval? That was the hook. Unlike some established hero, a rookie like Yu Chan actually needed the mayor's green light to even step into the game. If he played his cards right, the mayor could spin this perfectly, branding himself as the visionary who unearthed a generational hunter talent. He'd latch onto Yu Chan's rising star and steal the glory for himself. The mayor kept pitching, claiming that, thanks to the massive network he built, he was holding the keys to major corporate partnerships both here and overseas. He slapped a hand over a packet of instant coffee sitting on the desk. Take this brand for example. Their current endorsement deal is about to run out, and we could easily slap your face on every box. And apparently that cheap gig was just the tip of the iceberg. Yu Chan cut him dead, his voice quiet but slicing through the air like a knife. I must look like a clearance rack item to you, don't I? The mayor froze, his plastic smile cracking instantly. Yu Chan had been keeping tabs on the headlines lately, and he knew the world was starving for a new icon, someone to shatter the heavy atmosphere of doom. His eyes turned into cold steel. You act like you're handing me the world, but everything you're offering, I'm going to take it all anyway. Sounds like a raw deal for me, doesn't it? Panic setting in, the mayor scrambled with more offers, promising to cherry-pick only the safest, highest-paying raids for him. But to Yu Chan, that sounded excruciatingly dull. He waved the guy off like a fly and stood up to bail, tossing a sarcastic remark over his shoulder. Send my congrats to that coffee model, by the way. Since Yu Chan just passed on the gig, that guy got to keep his job a little longer. Meanwhile, deep in the shadows of a grimy underpass, two silhouettes loomed. One voice broke the silence, low and dangerous. Looks like the Gyeodong Island op was a total wash. The grunt, kneeling on the concrete, couldn't stop stammering apologies, but managed to squeak out that there was a silver lining to the mess. At the phrase silver lining, the boss's ears perked up. The subordinate pulled up a recovered video file footage, salvaged from the hunter qualification exam. It was crystal clear, Yu Chan unleashing the paradox flame. Eyes glued to the screen, a slow, sinister grin spread across the man's face. Now, that is what I call a hell of a debut. It's the first of the month, and the entire nation is holding its breath for the one update that matters. The September 2025 Hunter rankings just dropped, and the public goes feral, glued to their screens for the refresh. Even Yunsong is vibing, flashing the stats to his mom. Usually this is just background noise for the masses, but today feels different. Cut to a sterile hospital room. Kim Min-jae and his partner finally catch the live feed. The Hunter Association president, Moon Jong-tae, receives the official dossier for the September World Standings. Meanwhile, fresh from a bloodbath, Lee Sa-yeon smirks, wondering if that specific rookie cracked the list. Yoo Chan-seo, now enjoying celebrity status, rolls his eyes at the flashy graphics, scrolling past the garbage to find the only names that carry real weight, the top 10. The screen shows Lee So-yoon locking down the 10th spot, her squad camping out in a frozen hellscape. Sitting at number 5 is the lethal Kim Chae-yeon, clutching her signature golden fan blades. The third-ranked powerhouse is unveiled as the pyromaniac Choi Yo-reum, literally draped in his own inferno, while the second spot goes to the tank Young Tae-sok, flexing an insane purple aura. Before our main character can check the number 1 spot, a suit interrupts to tell him he's the headliner today. The official hypes him up, saying, "The wait is over, it's showtime," at the press conference. The man offers props, pointing out his name among the 25 rising stars. On the document, his handle is blazing in red, marking a record-shattering debut. While a veteran soloing a grade 3 rift is standard, for a rookie on their first run, that's legendary status. Chan-sok steps into a chaotic media storm, blinded by flashes as reporters scream about his origins and his impossible victory. Feeling like a zoo exhibit, he kills the Q&A early, granting only one final question. A reporter pushes for his mental state, and a soundbite for his future. He shuts them down cold, telling them to trash the "I'll try my best" cliches. With total ice in his veins, he declares his results will do the talking. Cut to Chan-sok riding shotgun in a chopper, hovering over the skeletal remains of what used to be Gansel prison. The president gazes at the nightmare below, explaining that when the rifts opened, most governments folded, but proudly notes that South Korea didn't just survive, they leveled up, gesturing to their silent stealth tech as proof. When our guy asks if this wreckage is the fate of the weak, the president nods, confirming world capitals have been wiped off the map, then invites the rookie to inspect the carnage. He reveals this is one of the Great 8, the deadliest corrosion rifts on Earth. The Gansel disaster hit 13 years ago, bursting from the city center with zero warning. A few lucky souls survived the blast, only to get boxed into a brand new corrosion zone with no exit strategy. The survivors were hunted down and erased by the monsters inside. In a matter of days, a whole city was deleted from existence. He explains that while nations look stable from the outside, the central governments are barely holding on to power, absorbing the history lesson. Chan-sok skips the pleasantries, asking why he was really brought here. The president spills the tea. Yoon Song-yeon from the Taebaek Guild paid him a visit, salty that the rookie rejected their offer. Our guy flashes back to the crushing pressure of the tank, who tried to strong-arm him into joining. He's shook to learn that Song-hyun had the nerve to demand his location, but the president assures him he kept his mouth shut while warning that Taebaek plays by survival of the fittest rules, and might try to jump him. Our guy reads the room, admitting that with his current stats, he'd get crushed in a raw strength contest against them. The president reads him like a book, knowing our protagonist is a lone wolf who refuses to be a guild pawn, and suggests the ultimate power move: block Taebaek by boosting his own clout through taking high-tier missions directly from the president. Sensing a hustle, he bluntly asks what the president wants in exchange for this VIP treatment. The president plays it smooth, replying that he only wants the rookie to remember who had his back when it mattered. Seeing a chance to grind for reputation, he takes the deal and grabs the mission file. The job: escort a cargo shipment from Busan to Nanning City, a nightmare route crawling with corrosion zones. But checking the manifest, he's confused to see Rolex's high-end ceramics and a luxury sedan listed as daily necessities. The president drops a riddle, claiming these items are absolute must-haves for certain VIPs. He figured a guy like our MC would get the game, understanding the political stakes. But our boy is completely unfazed, questioning why they need luxury junk in a country where the government is barely holding it together. The president counters, arguing that even when the world is crumbling, international clout and maintaining alliances still matter. Realizing this mission is just a glorified errand to smooth over some egos, our hero unclips his seatbelt and gives a hard pass. The president panics, insisting that the Korean government sees this as a top-tier priority. But the hunter is ice cold, stating it's straight up stupid for a solo player like him to get caught in the crossfire of politics. The president's vibe shifts instantly. He sneers, suggesting that all this new fame is poisoning the rookie's brain. That's the wrong thing to say. In a total power move, our guy casually yeets the mission documents right out the open chopper door, leaving the politician stunned, silent. With a final glance back, he thanks him for the lift, cool as a cucumber. Then he announces he'll just swim back to Seoul himself, leaving the president with his jaw on the floor. Without wasting another breath, he executes a flawless backflip out of the aircraft, free-falling toward the ocean. The president watches in pure disbelief at the kid's insane audacity, as a massive splash erupts below. All he can do is grumble about how uncontrollable this generation is. Cut to evening. Golden hour at Incheon Port. A random worker is just trying to enjoy a quiet coffee break, spotting something weird in the water. Suddenly, a soaked and exhausted Yuchan Siuk drags himself onto the dock, wheezing for air. Between gasps, he screams about how he actually thought he was going to die out there. Who do they think they are, threatening him like that? The worker, assuming the kid survived, a tragedy, yells out in sympathy. Caught off guard by the pity, our MC just mumbles an awkward thanks. Now, alone, he locks in on his main goal, grinding for strength. He resolves to target the trickiest, hardest missions to speedrun his way to the top. The plan becomes so overpowered and influential that suits like the mayor or the president can never push him around again. He scrolls through job postings on his phone until one catches his eye, a high-stakes rescue op on Tsushima Island, right next to a suspected Grade 2 corrosion rift. Perched on a shipping container, he lets out a heavy sigh watching the sun vanish. Still wet, but totally focused, he steels himself, knowing he's about to be booked and busy. The mission briefing paints a grim picture on September 3rd. A crew of fishermen went out for jumbo shrimp season and never came back. The ocean turned violent that day, and it wasn't just a storm. It turns out corrosion monsters from the island rift had ambushed the fleet, dragging the crew away. One traumatized survivor later confirmed the worst: the captured fishermen were still alive in captivity. So the objective is clear: infiltrate the island, save the hostages, and nuke the rift. Back at his crib, our protagonist analyzes the intel on his screen. He spots the payout 55 million won for the Grade 2 rift, and immediately thinks about soloing it. He gets serious doing the math. If he clears this alone, that cash is 100% his. Plus the bonuses, a heroic narrative, and the insane clout that comes with clearing a Grade 2 rift solo. It's tempting, but he acknowledges the stats. The power gap between monster grades isn't a joke. He remembers that a Grade 3 hits like a tank, but a Grade 2, that's walking natural disaster territory. And a Grade 1 requires an entire nation's military just to scratch it. Weighing the odds, he admits that, while his paradox flame melted, the Grade 3, a Grade 2 might need a teammate to cover his back. But he scoffs at the thought, knowing top-tier hunters won't touch a civilian rescue gig. Then a light bulb goes on. He knows exactly who is desperate enough to say yes. Cut to the boat ride. He's decked out in new combat gear. Just then, Hansanga, his recruit, taps him. She asks for an ETA on the island. He glances at his phone, about 1 hour till landfall, and tells her to save her energy for the fight. But she's staring at his shoulder piece. Distracted, he misses her point for a second. Then she starts geeking out, recognizing the limited edition Iron Surfer gear. She demands to know how he snagged it. He nonchalantly mentions it was a gift from his contractor. She pouts, complaining that her sponsor never hooks her up with cool stuff like that. He hits her with a smug flex, claiming he earned this VIP treatment for being the next big thing. Who soloed a Grade 3 rift while she's just a textbook rookie. He dares her to level up and get famous if she wants the same perks. She looks salty, but that fire in her eyes proves his roast actually motivated her. Cue the flashback, showing exactly how this chaotic duo formed over a phone call just a few days ago. He didn't beat around the bush, straight up asking a shook Hansang to squat up. She paused, traumatized by their near-death experience in a Grade 3 rift, and wondering if he was crazy for jumping into a Grade 2. He just waited dead silent. Then he sliced through the awkwardness with one question: "Don't you want to get stronger?" He threw her own words right back at her, reminding her she explicitly said she wanted to learn from the best. Then came the offer. He guaranteed that under his mentorship her power levels wouldn't just increase, they'd skyrocket. With that insane power-up dangling in front of her, he demanded a choice. Fueled by some deep-seated hunger, she knew she couldn't stay weak. She locked in, declaring that if it meant gaining strength, she'd happily dive straight into hell. Back in reality, a screaming alarm instantly kills the vibe on their boat. The crew spots bogeys ahead, just as ghost ships spawn out of the thick fog. He scans the scene instantly, clocking 5 hostile vessels. Worried about the hostages, he tries to figure out a stealth approach to avoid detection. He turns to ask for her input only to realize she's casually floating in midair. He acts shook by her levitation, but she hits him with a smirk. "Don't tell me you can't do this." However, the silence following his question says it all. A massive smug grin plasters across her face as she savors this rare chance to finally one-up him on something. He stares, faking shock while she laughs, teasing that it's barely even a skill. Cut to him, skimming across the water, forced to carry her, whining that he hasn't unlocked water walking yet and telling her to quit splashing. But the playful mood dies instantly as they close the gap and his instincts scream danger. He cooks up a plan on the spot, ordering her to raid the nearest ship. When she questions the move, he breaks it down. He can sense mana, and the energy signature is way heavier on the back ships. That's where the real threat is. Getting the strategy, she nods and launches herself onto the deck. But the second she lands, she freezes, wondering if the thing standing there is even human. From behind, he barks at her to actually use her eyes and notice the glitchy, inhuman movement. Right on cue, the creature drops the disguise, revealing a nasty skeletal nightmare. She touches down on the ship's railing, combat ready. He immediately roasts her form, warning that landing like that is a speed run to blown-out knees. Then he drags her for being so loud she probably aggroed the whole map. Just then, a mob of undead pirate-looking creeps lock their glowing eyes on the duo. His eyes flare up as he gets ready to throw down, unleashing a massive electrical nuke that clears a path effortlessly. He quickly clocks these guys as trash mobs, grade 2 total fodder. His attention shifts to his partner, curious how she's going to handle opponents on this level. He spectates her fight, realizing she's already going 100%. Seeing how inefficient she is, he shouts her name, warning her she's burning way too much mana and gonna gas out instantly. While she fights for her life, he barks that she needs to dial it back for these scrubs. His promise to mentor her replays in her head. Frustrated by her sloppy control, she swears under her breath while he keeps yelling at her. She tries to rein in her lightning, but the live coaching doesn't stop. He's screaming that she's still going too hard, demanding she throttle it down even more. He's forcing her to learn control, right in the heat of battle. Suddenly, a painful core memory unlocks the cold, dark reality of being powerless. Seeing her past self crying and helpless, she swears she'll never be a bottom feeder again, determined to level up no matter what. His shout snaps her back to reality right as an undead monster lunges. Focused, she funnels her energy into one surgical strike, cleaving the monster clean in two. Her inner voice confirms the grind is real, electricity arcing through her eyes as she locks in. She doubles down on her dark promise to him and herself, I'm diving straight into hell. Total burnout hits her after that brutal sea skirmish. Surrounded by a carpet of rotting monster corpses, she balances on the rail, ready to launch. He locks eyes with her, done playing hero. He flashes a lazy thumbs up. Message received. Every other boat crawling with those things has been wiped clean. She swallows her pride, realizing the situation was way too sketchy for her usual stubbornness. Thanks for the tip, she mutters. Most idiots wouldn't get it even if I spoon-fed him, he shoots back. But then she drops a bombshell that's the first real advice she's ever gotten. He pauses, genuinely confused. Seriously, what were your seniors doing back at the academy? Sleeping. I picked things up too fast, she shrugs. I guess seeing a rookie speedrun their curriculum just pissed everyone off. He grins, testing the waters. So you scared you're gonna end up stronger than me? Eyes burning with focus, she hits him with the truth. I've already gapped every teacher I've ever had. Her ego actually stuns him for a second, but he bounces back fast. Cute. But don't bet on that happening with me. You're gonna be chasing my back for the rest of your life. That comment clearly struck a nerve. Touchdown on Tsushima Island. Two Coast Guard officers salute, letting them know they're holding the line back at Geoje Island. Yeah, keep grinding, he waves them off. Immediately, his brain switches to tactical mode. Intel says the hostages are stashed at a shrine, he notes. She nods, pulling up the map. We've got two targets, Kaijin and Watatsumi. They lock in Kaijin Shrine as objective number 1. Hiking there takes a few hours. Easy. But he spots the glitch in the plan. Getting there is a breeze. Getting back is the nightmare. We're talking 15 hostages. That's a logistical headache. Dragging that many civilians, especially if they're banged up, is going to be nearly impossible. Plus, the air is thick with nasty mana that feels like acid on the skin. And the island is crawling with corrosion beasts. Those things won't stop hunting. To get out alive, they need wheels. Fast. He spots a beat-up abandoned van. You good behind the wheel, please, she scoffs. Of course. The van launches like a rocket, tires screaming as it tears up a massive cloud of dust. Hanging on for dear life, he screams, good driver, my ass. Are the brakes just cosmetic, he hollers. She snaps, you don't like it, you drive. Forget it, gripping the door frame, he climbs out the window and onto the roof of the speeding van. Honestly, her GTA-style driving is still safer than his license, which expired 20 years ago. He'll stick to combat. It's go time. The protagonist locks in on the swarm of monsters tailing them. He whips out a weighted rope, loading a stone and spinning it up to lethal velocity. Crack, the stone flies like a sniper shot, obliterating a monster's skull instantly. He yanks the rope taut, testing its strength. Perfect. Spear in hand, he's ready to brawl. Suddenly, his eyes snap wide. Another wave of uglies is flanking them. Incoming left side, he roars down to the driver's seat. I got this, she yells back. He realizes her plan a split second too late. Wait, don't. Too late. She violently yanks the wheel, drifting the van directly into the monsters, turning them into roadkill. Eat pavement, she cackles like a maniac. Watching this chaos from the roof, he mutters, maybe I should have driven. The joyride hits a snag, a massive steep staircase cutting straight up through the forest. Behind them, a tidal wave of undead starts clawing its way up the steps, scratching at the van's bumper. Get inside the gate, he commands. I'll handle the trash behind us. She nods, eyes locked forward, and slams the pedal to the metal. The van smashes through the shrine entrance in a shower of wood splinters. Simultaneously, he backflips off the roof. He lands facing the horde. His eyes ignite with a menacing purple glow. Paradox flame activate. A vortex of purple and black energy erupts, swallowing the staircase. His plan is simple, but genius. He's not burning the monsters. He's burning the concept of friction itself. Instant chaos. The entire horde loses all traction, slipping and tumbling down the stairs like a cartoon landslide. Inside the shrine, Han Sang-ah locates the objectives, the terrified fishermen bound and huddled in the dark. She inches toward one of the survivors asking if he is hurt, but the guy is broken, stuttering absolute gibberish. Time to take charge. She flashes her badge announcing she is from the Hunter Association, and she is their ticket out of this hellhole. Bad move. The fisherman snaps eyes rolling back as he unleashes a blood-curdling scream, drowning out her desperate attempts to calm him down. He screams one clear command, run. His face is twisted in pure horror, leaving her totally confused by the sudden outburst. What the heck is he looking at? She turns and her blood freezes. A towering armored samurai is right behind her giant blade, raised for the kill. Boom out of nowhere, Yu Chun-seok intercepts the strike, his spear clashing against the blade, eyes glowing with lethal intent. He barks an order, get them to the van now. He is taking this beast down solo. The duel kicks off instantly. Chun-seok parries the samurai's heavy swings like they are nothing. The monster winds up for a massive overhead smash, but Klang Chun-seok catches the blade on his own sword feet, planted firm eyes locked in focus as he withstands the creature's insane horsepower. The undead warrior pulls back for another swing, aiming to split him in two. Screech, Santa comes flying in with the van drifting straight into the monster while screaming, just die already. Crunch. The grill smashes the samurai's skull, dropping it instantly. Dust settles and Chun-seok looks over at his chaotic driver. Hanging off the side, he deadpans. Remind me to never let you drive again. Santa just rolls her eyes. Shut up and get in. Engines revving, he checks if the VIPs are secure. Santa nods, but then her expression shifts to pure confusion as she stares through the windshield. Eyes front, she screams. But Chun-seok is way ahead of her already, locking onto the nightmare blocking their path. The abyss ahead is staring back. Hundreds of glowing red eyes ignite in the darkness like a swarm of angry fireflies. An army of shrieking undead surges forward. Meanwhile, Chun-seok is weirdly calm, noting that the samurai from earlier was actually pretty tanky to survive a van to the face. Seeing the tidal wave of zombies approaching, he makes a call. Toss me your sword, he demands. Santa freaks out, giving up her blade is a massive insult to a swordsman, even with death literally seconds away. Chun-seok shuts down her ego trip instantly. It is simple, keep your pride. Or save these people. Santa grits her teeth, swallows her pride, and throws the weapon to him. Dual-wielding the spear and sword, he braces for impact, muttering under his breath. He hates using his ace in the hole this early. Flashback to the Giogondo rift, he is cracking open a mysterious glowing loot box. He remembers the shock. Inside wasn't gold, but a single armored gauntlet pulsing with faint blue energy. The second he slipped it on, he knew. This wasn't just gear, it was a game changer. The glove started sucking mana right out of the air. For a normal hunter, it is a basic recharge pack. But for him, it is a nuclear reactor. He ran the numbers, it is a mana battery. With a 5-minute lifespan. But for those 300 seconds, his power levels spike. To match Lee Se-yoon, the 10th ranked hunter in the world. Snap back to reality, Chun-seok launches himself skyward, weapons ready. The gauntlet flares up, pumping raw mana into his veins. He swings, unleashing an apocalyptic wave of energy that disintegrates the entire undead army in a heartbeat. Inside the van, Santa's jaw hits the floor. She is paralyzed by the sheer flex. Checking the side mirror, she can't process it. Hundreds of monsters just deleted. Buff expired. Chun-seok hops back in like nothing happened. Drive, he says. Straight to the port. And don't look back. They peel out, tearing through empty streets toward Hatakatsu port. For a split second, she thinks they actually made it. But the universe has other plans. Another wave of zombies floods the street. Seriously, where are they spawning from? The van is rattling about to die. We have to fight, she yells. Chun-seok doesn't even blink. Keep driving. The engine's gonna blow, she screams, just as a neon blue dome materializes around the chassis, crackling with voltage. The monsters lunging at them get blasted back by the force field. Santa stares, totally stunned. Inside the bubble, the beat-up van cruises toward the harbor. She checks the rear view and sees the horde hitting an invisible wall. Her eyes go wide. She's figuring it out. There, a glowing rune sketched on a passing building. Chun-seok finally speaks up. Protective formation geometry. He dumbs it down for her. Basically, I drew a line, and monsters can't cross it. Where did you learn that? She gasps. Another world, he shrugs. Not like you could learn it anyway. He smirks, clearly admiring his own genius. Annoyed by his ego, she asks the real question, does this geometry work on everything? He admits the technique has hard limits, dropping the grim truth that it is useless against the real deal. Right on cue, the undead samurai breezes through the barrier, without a scratch, radiating a suffocating aura of power. It growls about an ancient duty, to protect the sacred. A bone-deep chill instantly grips Han-sang-ah, as she is crushed by the monster's overwhelming presence. Chun-seok, however, clocks the beast's ability immediately, mind's eye. To him, the vibe is surprisingly chill. But then it hits her the textbook definition of that legendary skill. A sixth sense that reads an opponent's every move before they make it. She trembles, wondering how a rotting corpse can wield a technique that even grandmasters struggle to unlock. But he stays ice cold, reassuring her there is absolutely nothing to fear, and confidently writes off legendary skills like mind's eye as cheap parlor tricks. With a sharp glint in his gaze, He announces that class is in session. He is going to show her exactly how to handle enemies like this. But the samurai scoffs with a mocking laugh, swinging his blade to flex on Chun-suk. As Chun-suk calmly strolls toward the flailing beast, he begins his lecture on the reality of mind's eye. It is not some mystical power, just a muscle memory reflex, forged in the fires of endless combat. And you can hack that reflex by projecting pure, unadulterated killing intent. You can overload the senses and force a malfunction. Sang-ah whispers the names of other god-tier arts like Heart Sword and the state of selflessness, but he waves them all off as illusions, fake realms that mean absolutely nothing. He effortlessly closes the gap, striking before the creature can even twitch. With a single, elegant sweep of his spear, he completely obliterates the armored samurai. As the monster crumbles into dust behind him, he calmly asserts that those fancy techniques are, in fact, nothing special. He warns that chasing enlightenment is just a trap that causes fighters to put a ceiling on their own potential. The once terrifying beast wielder of a legendary skill is now just a heap of scrap metal. Chun-suk declares he has earned the right to make such a bold claim. He paid for that right with countless sacrifices, escaping that very trap himself. Reflecting on his past life, he notes that while the beast was tough enough to tank a van impact, its ultimate move was pathetic against him. She questions her own performance, feeling utterly useless by comparison. She finally admits that while she thought she was giving 100%, his true strength far exceeded her wildest imagination. With newfound resolve, she decides she can no longer chase her goals. With a half-hearted mindset, her determination reignited, she locks eyes with Chun-suk, ready to go all in. Gathering her courage, she tells him she needs a favor. With fire burning in her eyes, she pleads, "Teach me for real." He plays dumb, asking if he isn't already teaching her, but she clarifies that verbal tips won't cut it. She doesn't just want advice, she wants direct hands-on guidance. She admits that compared to him, she is laughably weak, which is exactly why she is in such a rush to get stronger. Intrigued by her desperation, he simply asks for her why. Filled with rage, she declares her ultimate goal: to destroy Club Shidai with her own hands. We see an infographic explaining the Great Eight, the world's most dangerous rifts, and Club Shidai is the infamous one that swallowed the Himalayas in a single breath. To this, he remarks that her goal is a bit extreme, and correctly guesses she is driven by revenge. She confirms it, stating she seeks vengeance for her family. To sweeten the deal, she clarifies she isn't asking for a handout, and slides him a business card. He is stunned to see the logo for the KY Group, a massive corporation, with a market cap of 257 trillion. Realizing she is from a dynasty, he listens as she explains. She has dropped out of the succession race. He shrewdly deduces that if she pulls off something legendary as a hunter, she might get dragged back into the family power struggle. So he asks what she truly wants from him. She makes her offer crystal clear: make me the best. In return, she will supply rare elixirs unavailable on the black market, and promises that with her supply he can finally reach the realm of power he desires. But he internally scoffs, knowing she couldn't possibly comprehend the god-tier level he is already at. A flashback reveals his true self, the seasoned hero who reached the absolute pinnacle of power long ago, and he reflects that his only motivation for gaining strength now is to reset the world to the way it was before the rifts tore it apart. Back in the present, he shakes her hand, sealing the deal but stating that he has no use for rare items. Instead of elixirs, he requests something simple, and they arrange to drive to a medical center to find a doctor. Scribbling down intel, Chun-suk and Sang-ah roll up on the medical team, demanding an ETA on the 7 rescued survivors. The doctor shakes his head grimly. It's bad news, starvation mode. It'll be a solid week before any of them can string a sentence together. He promises to flag them the second eyes open. The duo nods, pivoting to leave the ward and let the patients crash. But Chun-suk zero chill. He spins on a surprised Sang-ah, dropping a bomb. Her boot camp starts right now. He drags her out to a dusty, abandoned lot. It's game time. But before the first blow lands, he hits his rookie student with a hypothetical. Could she slip past his spear if he swung it with lethal intent? She hesitates. No shot, the skill gap is massive. Why even ask? But he shuts that doubt down instantly, insisting she can dodge it if she pushes her senses to the breaking point. He commands her to lock in, really see with her eyes. Listen to the wind, inhale the dust, and feel the air on her skin. He steps into her personal space intensity, radiating off him, telling her to dominate every sensation. Don't fight on instinct, fight with pure, unadulterated consciousness. Got it, he quizzes. She goes for her hilt, but before her brain can fire the signal, he glitches out of existence. Gone. Thin air. She scrambles to track him, straining her ears for a footstep. Dead wrong. He materializes behind her cold steel, kissing her neck. Too slow. In a real fight, senses trigger before thoughts. Pressing the spear tip closer, he drops the golden rule. Trust the sensory input, and move. No hesitation. Thinking just adds lag. Unrefined senses are liars. That concludes the theory portion. Now for the practical exam. Suddenly, the vibe shifts violently. Boom, a massive crash rocks the medical center. The cop on guard duty spins toward a rising mushroom cloud of dust. Another officer sprints over, scanning the chaos for his MIA partner. He opens his mouth to yell, but the words die in his throat. He freezes eyes wide. What the hell is that? He stammers. It's not an attack, it's Chun-Suk and Sang-ah locked in a sparring session that looks like a natural disaster. Sang-ah is unleashing hell, a blur of strikes. Chun-Suk, barely breaking a sweat, casually blocking with his spear shaft. Then he flicks her blade away like it's a toy. The shockwave from the parry craters the concrete beneath their feet. The power gap is laughable, but she's not quitting. She tightens her grip, main character energy, blazing ready for round 2. But Chun-Suk winds up for a skull-crushing overhead smash. Pure terror floods her eyes as she realizes. She is dead meat. No dodge for that. Suddenly a shout cuts through the noise. Mr. Yu. The spear freezes millimeters from her nose. It's Andre. One of the survivors is awake and asking for them. Sang-ah gasps for air, snapping out of the combat trance like she's waking from a nightmare. Already Chun-Suk muses lowering his weapon. Class dismissed. He nods approvingly. She finally learned to block. She just stares at him, shell-shocked. That was only lesson 1. Cut to the infirmary. Chun-Suk pulls up a chair, checking on the conscious patient. The survivor spills the tea. He remembers the cage, a truck pulling up, and figures stepping out. Chun-Suk and Sang-ah exchange looks. More hostages, they ask. Nope, the guy shakes his head. These new arrivals were chill, way too chill. And the monsters didn't even touch them. Flashback, a hooded creep barking orders commanding the beasts to load specific hostages onto the truck like cargo. It clicks for Chun-Suk. That explains the low head count. Only 7 left behind. Lucky you made a run for it, he mutters. That connects the dots on why the room was so empty. He notes it was a miracle, one of them slipped away. The survivor's face goes dark. I didn't slip away. He drops the bombshell. They let us go. Sang-ah is floored, but our MC, he doesn't even blink. Knew it, he whispers. It never added up. A civilian escaping a fortress that 2 elite hunters barely cracked. Impossible. Unless the door was left unlocked on purpose. They've got the skills to be hunters, he jokes darkly. Sang-ah's blood runs cold. The rescue. It was a setup from day 1. Played like fiddles. He wonders why they'd go this far, a menacing smirk creeping across his face. He's not just mad, he's insulted. The sheer audacity of this dirty play. Sang-ah watches him trying to decode that rage. Is he pissed because they underestimated him, or is it righteous fury because they used innocent lives as worm food? Then the survivor drops one last weird detail. I saw a cat. He points out a specific detail, a tacky cat mascot dangling from the guy's waist. Suddenly a light bulb goes off in Sang-ah's head. She instantly clocks their location, the deserted Suzume airport terminal. When he asks how she cracked the code so fast, she hits him with major side-eye. Is that phone just an accessory? She snarks. He fires back, roasting her for being a sheltered rich girl who clearly doesn't know the struggle of data overage fees. She just shakes her head, wondering if he's been living under a rock, especially since the place is a ghost town. She moves to bail back to the shrine, but he blocks her path. He points down, locking eyes on their target perched on a shattered glass roof beneath them. Peering over the edge, he spots the guy's face. It's basically metal-plated with piercings. He raises an eyebrow, dryly muttering. Did he attack his own face with a sewing machine? But jokes aside, he senses a dangerous aura radiating from this metal head. This is no average thug. The pierced stranger tilts his head back, grinning with pure condescension. Well, hello there, brats, he calls out. He drops his name Kim Ji-hoon, smirking up at Chun-Soyuk and Sang-ah. He takes credit for dragging them here in one piece, leaving our duo completely baffled, but he's about to give them a live demo of the alternative. He drags out a battered, unconscious captive from the shadows. With a terrifyingly casual flick of his wrist, he tosses the body straight into the swirling chaos of the erosion zone. Sang-ah gasps, eyes wide with horror. He's feeding people to the anomaly. Agonized screams rip through the air, reminding her of the grim reality they are trapped here until the core is obliterated. But the screams cut short as the victim begins a gruesome transformation. Flesh warps and twists, hardening into a monstrous cyborg-like nightmare. It's what Ji-hoon calls an erosion member, but the villain just scoffs, sneering that a weak host only creates trash. Totally unimpressed, he delivers a lazy kick to the abomination. Boom! The monster vaporizes instantly. The sheer cruelty and power leaves Sang-ah paralyzed. But Chun-Soyuk keeps his cool, demanding answers. You planning to turn us into monsters too? Why Ji-hoon explains that regular folks are just cannon fodder, too weak for his grand design. He needs high-quality ingredients. His goal is to use elite hostages to forge unstoppable erosion warriors. The horrifying truth sinks in. This isn't a ransom gig. They aren't bargaining chips, they are raw biological material. They are building an army of monsters from kidnapped victims. Ji-hoon smirks, adding a layer of condescension. Claiming he couldn't care less about explaining himself, but the elders insisted on the monologue. He puffs out his chest, introducing his crew. The heirs of Dangun, a fanatical group obsessed with one thing, establishing absolute Korean dominance. They want power so overwhelming, no nation dares look them in the eye. To prove his point, he stomps the ground, sending abandoned cars flying like toys. With a manic, unhinged grin, he screams about building a supreme empire. Then he makes his move. He roundhouse kicks a falling sedan, launching it like a missile straight at our duo. As 2 tons of steel hurtle toward his face, our guy just lets out a frustrated sigh. Time seems to freeze on the broken tarmac. In a blur, he slices the car cleanly in half with his spear. He stares Ji-hoon down, arguing that their country is already a powerhouse. That hits a nerve. Ji-hoon screeches. It's not enough and charges, vowing to forge a nation that demands fear. A nation no one can disrespect. Chun So-yuk bends his knees, ready to dance. Ji-hoon goes airborne, unleashing a devastating kick while roaring his dream of an untouchable, global superpower. He starts ranting about history, centuries of paying tribute, forced humility, and the ultimate shame of having their sovereignty stolen by invaders. Meanwhile, Chun So-yuk is clinically analyzing the guy's moves, lightning-fast taekwondo fueled by centuries of grudge. We will make them pay, Ji-hoon bellows. Chun So-yuk springs backward instantly, barely dodging the lethal strike. Landing safely, he has to admit the guy's twisted logic actually holds some water. Sang-ah watches terrified as our hero cuts through the rhetoric. You don't care about saving the world, do you? He accuses. Ji-hoon laughs, guilty. When our guy brings up the innocent lives at stake, Ji-hoon claims Chun So is too small-minded to see the grand vision. But suddenly our MC looks interested. Ji-hoon drops a bombshell. His group has figured out how to control the erosion zones. This stops our guy cold. That changes the entire game. If that's true, the implications are massive. No more hunters dying in vain. He decides to play along, feigning interest in joining forces, and asking about the extent of their control, even offering to trade Sang-ah to seal the deal. Sang-ah looks betrayed, but Ji-hoon narrows his eyes, arrogantly asking why he should spill his secrets. But the moment Ji-hoon claims they have sufficient control, Chun So-yuk catches the slip. So not full control, then he smirks, calling the bluff. He labels Ji-hoon a fraud, all big talk, zero proof. Just like every other self-righteous dirtbag with a noble cause, the truth stings. Ji-hoon snaps, screaming at him to shut his mouth. Chun-suk barely weaves past a kick that would have cratered the pavement. Panting heavily, he realizes he might have trolled the guy a little too hard. That trash talk was just a stall tactic anyway. He needs to refill his mana tank and fast. Problem is, his reserves are running on fumes, nowhere near enough to fuel the paradoxical phantasm flame. Friction of war is his only play right now. But before he can make a move, Ji-hoon comes barreling in like a freight train. Suddenly, the enemy freezes. Out of nowhere, Han Sang-ah steps up to the plate. Boom, she unleashes a shockwave of emerald energy. Ji-hoon flinches, clearly shocked she isn't trembling in a corner somewhere. He sneers, asking the pretty girl if she suddenly grew a spine. Chun-suk yells for her to stay back, but she's not hearing it. She calls it like she sees it. His spare gauntlets are empty. She knows he's tapped out on mana. Chun-suk is actually impressed. She's sharp. Clutching a potion vial, she demands a timeline for his recovery. Give me 5 minutes, he says. Without hesitating, she slams the mana-restoring elixir straight into her own veins. Glass shatters on the floor. Crackling with golden lightning, she smirks and tells him, I got this. Chun-suk panics. How many of those did she purify? It's a one-way ticket to mana overload, but she insists there's no other choice. He swallows his worry and nods. 5 minutes on the clock, then it's game over for the bad guy. He can't lose, she tells herself, summoning a literal hurricane. A massive bolt of lightning rips through the sky. Ji-hoon braces against the pressure, teeth grinding, telling Sweetheart to calm down. She guides that lightning bolt like a missile, aiming right for his head. He warns he might accidentally kill her, but the strike lands dead center. A blinding explosion swallows Kim Ji-hoon whole. Sang-ah watches, praying that was enough to put him down. Smoke clears and the guy walks out, wiping a tiny drop of blood from his lip. That's it, he asks, genuinely confused. Hovering midair like a god, Ji-hoon laughs. He calls her ultimate move a tickle. Then snap, he delivers a devastating kick that launches her across the battlefield. She's out, cold blood spilling, hurtling toward the concrete, until a strong hand snatches her out of the air. Ji-hoon looks over to see Yu Chun-suk cradling the unconscious girl. The look in Chun-suk's eyes is pure ice, ready to die. Ji-hoon freezes. Chun-suk's mana is skyrocketing. Was he sandbagging this whole time? Gently laying Sang-ah down, Chun-suk asks why he looks so shook. It's simple mechanics, really. His recovery works just like Ji-hoon's piercings. Chun-suk stares him down, cold as steel. Only an idiot would have missed the signs. Ji-hoon was burning through mana so fast he couldn't control the runoff. All that purified energy was just leaking into the atmosphere. Chun-suk cracks a terrifying smile. Thanks for the donation. He siphoned every drop of that wasted mana to fuel his paradoxical phantasm flame. Ji-hoon starts screaming. This shouldn't be possible. There's no technique for that, he shrieks. Chun-suk just winds up for the kill shot. Don't worry about the details, Chun-suk says. You'll be dead in a second anyway. The fight is over. Kim Ji-hoon lies broken, a final, ragged gasp escaping his lips as his heart gives out. Towering over the body, Yu Chun-seok scoffs at the man's pathetic pride, trying to stand on mana alone, before dropping the cold, hard truth. His paradox flame had literally incinerated every ounce of the man's muscle strength. In the fading light of his consciousness, Ji-hoon chokes out a desperate plea to his mysterious captain, and then bam! A blinding flash of light erupts from the rooftop above. On pure instinct, our protagonist whips his head around, locking onto the new threat. He moves just in the nick of time, dodging a projectile. that turns out to be an arrow, which shatters the concrete where his head had just been. More annoyed than anything, he glares up at his attacker, sighing, "What now?" From the shadows, the attacker's voice cuts through the air, cold as ice, revealing he was aiming to shatter Chan Seok's wrist and make him drop the spear. Perched on the roof, a hooded figure, bow in hand, gives a slow clap for his sharp reflexes. Chan Seok raises an eyebrow at the old-school Korean archery, instantly clocking the man as Ji-hun's captain. He can feel the guy's insane energy signature, realizing on the spot that this dude is at least twice as powerful as the world's 10th-ranked hunter, Lee Sayun. No, this captain's skill was probably 3 or 4 times greater than his. The captain actually praises his nerve, asking if death doesn't scare him. And this, right here, is a major tell. The author isn't just dropping in a mid-level boss. This guy is screaming final arc antagonist vibes, to which our boy just smirks, firing back that if the captain really wanted him dead, he'd already be a corpse. Putting the pieces together, he asks if the guy is after his unique flame ability. As if summoned, the flames devouring Ji-hun surge, forcing him to scream and beg for his life. The captain's command is absolute. Put out the flames. I won't ask again. Chan Seok instantly breaks down the situation. The captain is basically using his own power as a life support system for the mana-drained Ji-hun. It clicks. He now understands the captain intentionally spared him. An arrow to the head would have been an instant game over. Heeding the warning, he allows the paradox flame to finally recede from Ji-hun's scorched body. Ji-hun is left a twitching, drooling wreck, his body completely decimated. In that instant, the hooded captain moves like a blur, appearing at his subordinate's side and catching him before he hits the ground. He just says, "Good job," and then asks our hero if he gets what he's just done. But Chan Seok is too stunned by his blinding speed to even speak. The captain then lays out the man's horrific future. He'll live out his youth in a wheelchair, with a catheter being the only thing, pumping his body full of mana to keep him alive. He knocks another arrow, stating that while he needs Chan Seok alive, his definition of alive is pretty damn flexible, so long as there's breath in his lungs. Staring him down without a hint of fear, Chan Seok declares he'd rather drop dead from a heart attack than ever become the captain's little puppet. Realizing he can't win without cracking the secret of the flame, the captain decides to fall back. For now. But before he goes, he boasts that just as he conquered the supposedly impossible corrosion rifts, he will succeed in this too. But his parting shot is a chilling promise that one day, Chan Seok will inevitably fall under his complete control. With a final, haunting echo of, inevitably, the captain and his man dissolve into a swirl of black smoke. Standing alone on the trashed helipad, Chan Seok just curses his luck. He grinds his teeth, beyond frustrated at getting tangled up with a psycho who clearly never gives up. As the smoke clears, Han Song-ah cautiously makes her way over, asking if the attackers were after his unique skill. He confirms they were, but admits he has no idea why. Confused, she questions why they bailed, instead of just grabbing him, when his mana was low, which makes him think they must know something about his background. He then tells her to think about it, about what these terrorists are trying to achieve and how ballsy their moves are. And then it hits her like a truck when he brings up the political fallout. What if the Korean government wouldn't actually have a problem with what just went down? He then confirms her worst nightmare, suggesting the group might be getting direct, under-the-table support from the government. I'm telling you, this is what makes Chan Seok so dangerous. The man doesn't just throw punches, he plays 5D chess. Freaking out, she asks if they should even bother trying to clear the rift anymore, but he just tells her to play dumb and act like she saw nothing, saying, "Ah," then sheepishly admits she's like, the worst liar ever, and he just sighs, muttering that he already knew that. Deciding to tackle one crisis at a time, Chan Seok tells her to wait there while he heads into the rift, by himself. She asks if he's serious and tries to argue, warning him that he has no clue what kind of nightmares those terrorists might have unleashed in there. With a look of pure resolve, he says he's about to find out, and tells her to get some rest, before turning and facing the gaping maw of the rift. He takes a running start and plunges into the darkness, straight into the heart of the Tsushima operation, deep inside the Grade 2 corrosion zone. Standing before the main entrance, he can feel the immense, suffocating energy radiating from within. Taking a breath, he shoves the massive wooden doors open, and steps inside, his eyes scanning the interior. This place was nothing like the dungeons he was used to. He couldn't help but find it hilarious that a place crawling with such weak, pathetic undead was built like a fortress. A chilling yin energy hits him, confirming his gut feeling. The rift's core is just through this door. He can practically taste its concentrated power, just waiting for him. He's walking with a confident swagger, but he's not stupid. He knows the danger is immense. One slip up, and it's game over. Taking a deep breath to steady his nerves, he slides the massive door open and plunges into the rift's very heart. What he finds inside the main chamber is bizarre. A colossal black cauldron seethes with a menacing bubble, spewing a disgusting, sickly green vapor into the air. He can't help but wonder if this freaky pot is actually the core of a Grade 2 rift. But before he can even process that thought, a pale hand shoots out from behind him, grabbing him desperately. The sudden sign of life completely startles him. A terrified, blood-soaked man is crawling on the floor, clinging to his leg, and pleading for his life. In a flash, a monstrous tendril whips out of the cauldron and violently coils around the screaming man. "My legs are gone!" he shrieks in pure agony as he's dragged back towards the grotesque pot. Cheon-suk lunges, trying to snatch the man's hand and yank him to safety, but it's no use. The appendage's grip is like iron, ripping the man from his grasp. With one final, hopeless scream for help, he's brutally hauled back into the bubbling brew. The surface of the green goo churns violently for a second, then falls silent. A moment later, a monstrous hand slams down on the cauldron's rim. A hideous, freshly made undead horror, its face half rotted away, drags itself out with a guttural growl. The sight sends a wave of revulsion through him. He finally gets it. The cauldron is an assembly line for the undead, powered by sacrificing living people. And that image triggers a traumatic flashback to his past life as a hero. He's back in a burning village, helpless, forced to listen to the agonizing screams of innocents being offered as sacrifices. The memory of that day's horror churns his stomach. Blazing with fury, he glares at the cauldron, muttering under his breath about his burning hatred for the vile humans who would orchestrate something like this. From the darkness, a chillingly calm voice echoes, remarking on the arrival of a new sacrifice. But the voice also notes that this new offering is different. He's not like the others. As a figure steps from the shadows, the voice pinpoints Cheon-suk's presence, a ferocious, yet somehow familiar energy, cloaked in a brilliant turquoise aura. The true boss of the rift finally shows his face, immediately recognizing Cheon-suk's power as the aura of a true warrior. And I gotta say, I'm kinda digging the world building here. Drop your thoughts down in the comments. With his own sword already humming with energy, the rift warrior orders our protagonist to draw his weapon. Fueled by a spirit of vengeance, he proclaims he's about to temper his own blade with his enemy's blood. Our guy feels the crushing pressure radiating from the Grade 2 rift core, and the terrifying realization hits him. That hooded captain didn't just beat this monster, he's now puppeteering it. The possessed warrior stares him down, coiled and ready to pounce, as its master channels all of its focus onto this one opponent. From this, our guy instantly deduces the captain himself wasn't capable of this. There has to be an even more powerful player, pulling the strings from the shadows. He knows that against a foe this powerful, any carelessness, even a millisecond of hesitation, will get him killed. As he barely dodges the first strike, he curses the monster's insane speed. But the monster just seems bored by his agility, sneering at how long his lifeline appears. Our guy figures out that the strategy against an enemy this OP is actually simple. Before the monster can find and exploit his weakness, he has to end this with one perfect, all-out attack. He funnels every ounce of his power into a single, devastating thrust. The monster's one glowing eye tracks the incoming attack, and then, with blinding speed, it snaps its own sword up to intercept. You gotta love this art style, man. The artist captures the clash of the two weapons in this insane flash of light and raw power, but the result leaves our protagonist completely stunned. It wasn't just that the Rift Warrior blocked his max power attack. Something way more shocking has his mind reeling. The truly terrifying part? He never even saw the block happen. The Rift Warrior calmly lectures that a truly fast attack, by definition, should be impossible to see. It's a lesson he's about to learn the hard way. The warrior instantly counters with unbelievable speed, carving a deep gash across his chest. He grits his teeth through the searing pain, his mind unable to process that his opponent is even faster than he'd calculated. His enemy taunts him, saying he's doing a decent job just barely avoiding fatal blows, then challenges him to try and block the next one. A blistering exchange explodes between them, forcing our protagonist completely on the back foot. The non-stop onslaught leaves him battered and bleeding. He staggers backward, scrambling to find his balance. The Rift Warrior looms over him, an absolute wall of impassive, overwhelming power. That's when our guy slams his spear straight into the ground. In that instant, he unleashes his trump card, forced to activate his Paradox Flame. He curses his luck the attack is totally useless since his opponent isn't even a living thing. Boxed in, our hero desperately searches for a new strategy, while the Rift Warrior just looks on, mildly impressed by the string of surprises. But our guy's not done, a spark of defiance in his eyes, wondering what in the hell it'll take to finally put this monster down. But just as the thought crosses his mind, the Rift Warrior unleashes another devastating attack. A vicious strike rips clean through our protagonist's torso, sending a shower of crimson into the air. Sheer horror grips him as he feels the blade shred through every single muscle in his body. Still, he braces for the inevitable, even as the Rift Warrior assumes the fight is over. But against all odds, our hero forces himself back to his feet and surges forward, spear at the ready, completely ignoring his catastrophic injuries. He remembers his vision almost blacking out, but then it hits him. The warrior somehow missed the crucial muscles just above his shoulders. That's the opening he needs. Igniting his Paradox Flame, He flash heals the torn tissue and teleports behind his enemy before he can even register it. With the warrior's back completely exposed, he thinks he finally has a clear shot at victory. But that single glowing eye reveals a terrifying truth. He was being baited the entire time. Like I said, the warrior declares, effortlessly spinning to counter the ambush. Too slow. A final, lethal slash carves through the air. The protagonist's spear clatters to the stone floor as a single drop of blood splashes down, quickly followed by a stream, painting a grim picture of his defeat. The warrior stands over our fallen hero, his blade resting on his shoulder with unnerving calm, and our protagonist is left gasping for air, totally beaten. But even then, he grinds his teeth and prepares for what's next. He launches himself backward, creating distance between them. To think I missed, the warrior muses. You're quite the lucky one. Our guy struggles to his feet, absolutely furious, accusing the warrior of pulling his punches and keeping him alive on purpose. He screams, demanding to know why he's being messed with, asking if this is all just some kind of pity party. The warrior just admits that, yeah, he totally could have ended him already, if he was still the man he used to be. And then, he reveals his tragic reality. He can't even remember a single name from his past life, having lost almost every memory from when he was alive. The flaws in his technique are from those memory gaps, all stemming from a crushing defeat by some unknown man, after which he was branded with a humiliating shackle. Our protagonist connects the dots. Their situations are polar opposites. He recognizes the shackle as the control device the terrorist talked about. The warrior clutches the cold metal around his neck, lamenting that he has lost everything that mattered. His name, his purpose, the very reason he ever picked up a sword, all of it, gone. Now, the only thing left inside him is a deep, sorrow-drenched resentment that has become the very fuel for his blade. His power erupts, a violent storm of energy crackling around him. Panicked, our guy has no idea what he can do. Right then, the warrior asks if his current form, an avatar of pure sorrow, doesn't look absolutely pathetic, as his very being starts to twist and transform. Our protagonist can only watch in silence, noticing the samurai's rage has become even more concentrated. He breaks it down. The warrior's raw power has spiked, but in exchange, he's sacrificed a massive amount of his technique and battle sense. A new strategy sparks in his mind. If this new berserker form can't one-shot him, then he actually has a chance to win this. He knows that to beat this powerhouse of grief, he has to go all out and unleash every last drop of his own power. The final battle between Yu Chan-sok and the amnesiac Rift Warrior rages at the heart of the collapsing dimension. The warrior watches him closely, sensing something strange about his opponent's aura, something he can't quite pin down. As black flames erupt and surround our protagonist, his wounds and stamina are instantly restored to 100%, getting him ready for the fight's next stage. His opponent pieces it together, realizing he has some bizarre ability, and noting the black flame seems to be burning something that isn't mana. Our guy just smirks, confirming the warrior's theory by revealing his unique flame literally has the power to burn abstract ideas. But internally, he knows that while his power sounds OP as heck, he doesn't have the skill yet to truly control it. He considers the insane complexity of his ability. Burning bigger, more conceptual things requires an insane amount of mana and focus to keep it from backfiring horribly. And he remembers the razor-thin control he needed back in his fight with Kim Ji-hun, where he had to be careful not to accidentally incinerate his own physical strength. After that, our protagonist thinks of his old, god-tier self as a legendary greatsword, while his current, weaker body is more like a butter knife. He admits his former self would have never needed to be this cautious, but seeing how desperate the situation is now, he decides he can't afford to play it safe anymore and prepares to make a massive gamble. With a new fire in his eyes, he declares he's going all in by burning away the concept of durability from the entire rift itself. The Rift Warrior is left absolutely stunned, completely unable to process what he just heard, or what it could possibly mean. To burn a concept like durability. Done explaining, Chan-sok just waves a hand at the warrior's confusion, figuring he'll just have to show him. The warrior's eyes fly open as he feels the very nature of his opponent's energy shift, realizing the fight has just leveled up into a completely unpredictable new stage. As the Rift Warrior stumbles from the first hit that lands, Chan-sok taunts him about the new rules of this fight. The warrior yells out in shock and pain while our guy smirks, telling him, "Try to catch on while you're getting rocked." Now that he's pegged his opponent's limits, our hero knows the entire game has just flipped in his favor. Hyped to push his own boundaries, he realizes this is the perfect chance to see what his current power level is really made of. The Rift Warrior looks on, totally not vibing with this turn of events, and braces himself for what's coming. Cheon-sok declares, "Let's move this party somewhere else." His power starts to shred the very reality of the rift, and just like that, the entire dimension violently implodes into chaos. They slam into each other so fast and hard that they're just a blur of raw blue and dark energy, because gravity has officially left the chat. The two powerhouses are locked in a spectacular high-speed dogfight, weaving between massive chunks of floating wreckage. Their battle transforms into a dazzling but lethal dance of light and shadow. darting through the crumbling dimension. Every single impact erupts in a blinding orange flash, a testament to the insane power being unleashed before the Rift Warrior raises his sword for the kill shot. But Cheon-suk throws up his spear, catching the blow. With teeth clenched, he funnels every last ounce of his strength into the block, but the Rift Warrior just overpowers him with pure, brute force, snapping the spear clean in half. Then, in a flash, a solid hit lands, blasting our guy straight down, completely and utterly stunned. The battlefield has become this trippy dreamscape of floating islands, beneath a strange, hazy sky. A shattered, moon-like orb just hangs there, adding to the seriously desolate vibes. Cheon-suk's aura continues to unravel the world, causing enormous chunks of the ground to just break off and float away. Using the absolute chaos to his advantage, Cheon-suk stomps on a platform, shattering it to launch himself forward like a rocket. The sheer force of his takeoff unleashes a massive shockwave, catapulting him through the air at blinding speed. The Rift Warrior is totally blindsided, as his enemy closes the distance in a heartbeat. For the very first time, a flicker of genuine shock registers in the warrior's eyes. As he comes face to face with this completely unexpected tactic, Cheon-suk's eyes blaze with power as he unleashes a brand new, devastating attack. He summons a literal storm of ethereal blue blades, a technique his opponent has absolutely zero intel on. This moment is a genius-level flex of our protagonist's abilities. It's an insane visual that totally flips the script on the battle, even if it's more about epic spectacle than textbook strategy. The Rift Warrior is swallowed by the maelstrom of blades, unable to defend himself. There are just too many projectiles. The overwhelming power of the assault sends the warrior flying backward through the fractured space, where he barely manages to land on a floating piece of rock. He looks down, completely baffled by this insane turn of events, and has to admit to himself that, in all his countless battles, across countless worlds, he has never seen a power like this. Visibly rattled, he demands to know what the hell his opponent even is. His confusion quickly spirals into full-blown dread as he senses Cheon-suk prepping something even bigger, his final attack. He looks up to see a colossal, cross-shaped bomb of pure energy forming in the sky above. The massive energy attack descends, ready to obliterate everything. Cheon-suk thrusts his spear forward, locking the attack in place and trapping his enemy beneath it. An inescapable cage of brilliant turquoise energy beams slams shut around the Rift Warrior. The warrior is trapped, his body suspended helplessly inside the intricate energy prison, and he just screams in agony. But just then, with a roar of pure defiance, he erupts with a massive surge of power, desperately trying to shatter the cage from within. His own dark energy swirls violently, threatening to burst free from the prison Cheon-suk so carefully constructed. While the warrior is totally focused on breaking out, Cheon-suk dives in, seizing the perfect opening for one final, decisive strike. He lets out a primal scream as he pours every last drop of his remaining power into one ultimate attack. The Rift Warrior's eyes go wide as he sees the finishing blow coming, powerless to react in time. In one final, climactic flash, their weapons meet for the last time, sealing the fate of both of them. Cheon-suk accepts being impaled with a look of pure triumph, knowing he landed his own fatal blow. At the same time, the Rift Warrior is run through the chest, his body beginning to crack and disintegrate like shattered glass. In their last moment, the two perfectly matched fighters share a grim, knowing smile of mutual respect. The eyes of the hero and the monster reflect one another, a silent acknowledgement of a battle fought to the absolute, bitter end. With the Rift Warrior finally defeated, the dimension's core, a swirling vortex of unstable purple energy, begins to collapse in on itself. The core then detonates in a blinding flash of light, signifying the complete obliteration of the rift. We then cut to a flashback, where a young, rookie knight asks his grizzled commander, Lee Hyun-suk, a hypothetical question about facing an enemy you can't possibly defeat. He gets more specific, asking what you're supposed to do in a fight against someone who is your perfect equal in every single way. The question is asked while the hero is standing on a bleak, war-torn battlefield, a moment that would come to define his entire philosophy. The hero, Lee Hyun-suk, actually takes a moment to seriously consider this impossible question about an opponent he could never beat. The young knight presses on, genuinely wanting to know what would happen if someone with the same legendary power as the hero actually appeared. With a dead serious and unwavering stare, Lee Hyun-suk tells him the answer is obvious, and then he delivers his absolutely brutal philosophy. When two absolute monsters clash, only one of them gets to walk away. Flashing back to the present, our guy, battered but unbroken, towers over the vanquished Rift Warrior. The words of his former self haunt his thoughts, as the warrior's entire being shatters into glowing embers, fading from existence itself. As the last motes of light wink out, he finds himself completely alone, the last man standing. A weary, blood-stained smirk curls his lips as he reaffirms his unshakable truth, whispering, "Called it. I'm the strongest one here."